microphones on and pull them forward. I'd like to call the October 3rd, 2022 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board Zoning Commission to order. Mr. Henry, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme? Here. Mr. Scributenist is excused and absent. Mr. Khan? Here. Mr. McPartlin?
Here.
Mr. Darpino?
Here.
Ms. Shenfield? Ms. Gold?
Present.
Ms. Strang?
Here.
Chairman Walsh?
Here. Thank you, Mr. Henry. And I believe Laura heard from Ms. Shenfield. She may not be present tonight, so Ms. Strang will be sitting in her seat for all purposes tonight. Okay, we have the approval of the minutes from the September 12th, 2022 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes? Motion made by Mr. Khan for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
And seconded by Mr. McPartland. I have just a couple of minor nits. Does anybody have any changes or corrections to the minutes? No. The only thing I've got is page 33, or excuse me, line 33 on page 1. Just a couple of names, clarification. Says Carl, and that's really Carl with a C. And on page 2, line 43, it says, I have to pull it up on this darn computer. It's Segoian, spelling Sogoian is the correct spelling, and that's right on the maps in the agenda statement. It has the correct spelling of those two residents of Colony regarding the Empire Drive subdivision. So I think those are just a couple of minor spelling corrections. So I don't think we need to have amended minutes on that. So I think any other changes to the minutes? Okay. All those in favor of approval of the minutes from the September 12th, 2022 meeting signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, hearing none opposed, the minutes from September 12th are approved. We have no public hearings tonight, so we'll move right to privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and we'll listen to what you have to say. So privilege of the floor is open. Anybody in the audience here? No? Oh, here we go.
My name is Carl White. I live at 5 Ives Court, Schenectady, New York. And I'm not sure this is quite appropriate or whether we'll get to this, but since this is, I think, the only time to speak about it, I'll bring it up. And if it doesn't get addressed later on, I understand. I guess I'll just raise my point. In looking at the engineering report regarding the subdivision, the Jereleman subdivision, I'm not a civil engineer. And the only point I'd like to raise is whether or not there was consideration for the stability of the very large trees in the area, given the assessment of the soil and water flow, and whether that is at least something to consider. The trees, if the committee has gone back there perhaps and looked at the trees, there are at least 2, if not more, very, very large oak trees, well over 100 feet in height. And I saw quite a bit about the assessment of the water flow and the water drainage. I just myself, and maybe I missed it, so apologies if I have, but the issue I'm trying to bring out is stability of the large trees given the potential development of the 2 homes. And I'm certain that someone has considered that, but I, as a layperson relative to this engineering topic, couldn't understand whether that had been at least discussed or assessed. So that's the concern I'm raising. And it may have been asked and answered, but forgive me, I'm just trying to clarify that I, as a layperson, couldn't discern whether that had been addressed. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Privilege of the floor? Laura, do we have anybody online that wants to speak tonight?
I didn't have any online or emailed comments.
Okay. All right. Then I'll make last call then for privilege of the floor. Any planning and zoning matters? Okay. Hearing or seeing no one for privilege of the floor, we'll close privilege of the floor. Thank you for your comments. We have no unfinished business tonight. Under new business, we have a recommendation to ZBA regarding 1502 Balltown Road. That's a storage shop out here on Balltown and Knott Street East regarding renovations. We have to make a recommendation to the Zoning Board of Appeals for an 11-foot rear yard setback.
Good evening. I'm Chuck Marshall from Stewart Shops. I hate to make this sound simpler than it is, but we're just proposing an exterior freezer to the shop on the corner. And there's the existing building is within the setback. The zoning administrator has determined that we need relief from the proposed freezer to the setback, and that's what's being sought. Should we be successful in achieving that, not only will we construct the exterior freezer addition, but we would also redo the building in a hardy board exterior finish and stone veneer. And I'll switch the boards over now.
Yep, and it's all included in our packets, and we've, had to discuss this at our last meeting also. So tonight, what we'll do first is we'll take action on the questions that the board answers regarding the ZBA. We'll do that first, and if there's any open items, we can discuss it, what the next action will be, because it's not on the agenda anywhere else tonight, okay? So regarding the building permit and the denial letter from the town planning and zoning department, basically, you're requesting a freezer on the back, which is 18.6 feet by 8 foot, 149 square feet. Problem with the freezer is that it violates the rear yard setback, which is 20 feet. So Niskayuna zoning code schedule ID part 2, the neighborhood commercial zoning district supplementary regulations for retail and service stores include a minimum yard dimension setback for the rear yard of 20 feet. As proposed, the one-page site plan drawing entitled Not Balltown 126 NBTS 1502 Balltown Road, Niskayuna, New York. S2 proposed site plan by Stort Shop dated 8/2/22 with no subsequent revisions depicts a rear yard setback distance to the proposed addition of 9 feet. Therefore, a variance of 11 feet of rear yard setback distance is required. And that's what we need to take action on. And Mr. Khan being a project lead, so I'll ask you, Mr. Khan, the 3 questions that we asked to make a recommendation to Zoning Board of Appeals. Is there an effect on a comprehensive plan, Mr. Khan?
Oh, Chairman, before you begin, Ms. Strang's gonna,
I need to abstain
from the
this-
votes.
from this vote.
Yep, and recuse yourself?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Recuse? All right, Mr. Khan?
There is no impact on the comprehensive plan.
Okay, the recommendation is no effect on the comprehensive plan. Any discussion on that? Anybody have any concerns? Okay, all those that agree there's no impact on the comprehensive, no effect on the comprehensive plan signify by saying aye. Aye. Any disagree? Okay, no impact on the comprehensive plan. The next one is suitability for use of the area proposed. Mr. Khan?
It is suitable for the use proposed.
Okay, and the recommendation is suitable, and we'll have some discussion on that. Do you have any specific examples, Mr. Khan?
So primarily, the main reason is, and there are a couple of points I'll fill in after we're done with the vote, but the main reason is that for the addition of the freezer and the concrete pad, it requires an 11-foot setback. The existing pre-conforming setback was actually a 12-foot variance, right? It was currently at 8 feet. So for whatever it's worth, it's actually a foot in the better direction. And so I think that's the main reason. It's consistent with that existing non-conforming pre-existing setback that's there. And additionally, right, it's butting up against the parking lot as the neighbor. That the green area in the parking lot is a neighbor. And so, if there was a residence there, there's another building right there, right? I think that would have been a different discussion. But
Yep.
It's suitable for that.
Yeah, I believe it's 8 foot now, and so this new one is 9 foot, so it's actually 1 foot greater than what the pre-existing non-conforming refrigeration unit is there. So it's, again, because we're bringing it up to date, we're trying to bring it into conformance, and that's why the area variance is required. The other thing I'd like to add, no, actually, I think you got it all, Mr. Khan. I mean, there's no impact on residents, any residential neighborhood there, strictly parking lot and developed neighborhood commercial properties in the vicinity of this proposal. So they're suitable. The recommendation is that it is suitable and the area is proposed. All those that agree signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay.
My issue with suitability has a little more to do with character, and I just think it's a little unfortunate that we have a relatively new building here with a beautiful facade which is being improved, and it seems that Stewart's quickly outgrew their space, and it seems as though maybe the pandemic or other market factors have kind of necessitated expanding the freezer for a lot of their locations, as we've seen with two in the town of Niskayuna. The other application by Stewart's at the location on Union Street, however, is a proposal for a freezer that's out of sight. And this one is very much visible from the parking lot and from a busy intersection. And it's really unfortunate to me that it's just going to, it's not at all going to be, clad in anything or at all disguised. It's very clearly just a steel box.
Okay, thank you, Mr. McPartlin. Okay, so the vote there was 5, an agreement that is suitable for area proposed, 1 recusal, and 1 nay on that. And we'll have some more discussion after we finish this up. And Mr. Khan, a recommendation to the zoning board of appeals?
The ZBA should grant the variance.
Okay, recommendation is that ZBA approve the variance. All those that agree signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Okay, 6 ayes and 1 recusal. Okay, all right, so we'll, that'll be typed up by the planning department, and that'll be sent on to the ZBA. But why don't you hold on a minute? We could have some other discussion.
Just a couple of comments. So there were a few things we wanted to check from the last time. So in terms of the CN permitted percentage expansion, they're well within that. And Clark, thanks for the information and verification of these. Right now, the increase of the 149 square foot is a 7.4% increase. They're allowed up to 25, so I think we're good there. Obviously, the limiting thing here is this rear setback, being the tightest dimension that they have to conform to. So the other one was actually parking. The parking spaces are going to be reduced. It was unclear to me to actually establish the original number, but the current number will now be 13 on the updated plan. And if we look at the total square footage plus the employee parking spots, I think that leaves about 12 spots that are needed. So that's the buffer of 1. So I think that they're okay. It may have been that in the current way the site is right now, there might have been 14 spots there, but right now you're at 13, which is fine. For whatever it's worth to Mr. McPartlin's, I focus all of my comments today for the ZBA recommendation on the area variance and the few items we had left over, right? We still would have to take this to site plan if you do come back in front of us. And I think we can have a good discussion around what you could actually do with that freezer, because we did bring this up last time.
Right.
And I'd recommend that if there was, a way to get this to look as best as it can, that'd be something that we'd definitely like to hear about.
Yeah, I'll return and review. The one thing is that when you do change the paint, the freezer matches the building better. While it is, I'm not disagreeing that it's an ironclad. It is what it is. I do my best to not lie. But the paint, I think, will be a little closer when it goes to the hardy board. So we will bring it into a little bit better. But I'll see if we can screen it in some other way.
Thank you.
Okay, so the other question is, are there any other conditions that we're going to be looking at for this site plan? I think, if I recall, it was pretty straightforward. I mean, it meets all the requirements as long as they get the area variance from the ZBA. I mean, that's the only critical path item, right, Laura?
Yeah, the only thing Complete Streets brought up was to paint the crosswalks because they're starting to get a little faded. And also they noted that this is a kind of significant outdoor seating stewards for like high schoolers and stuff eating ice cream, and there's really limited outdoor seating. So they were wondering if we're touching it, if we could look at places that we could add more outdoor seating. But those are site plan.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we'll review to look, but I think to Mr. McPartin and Mr. Khan's comments, the site itself is very constrained. And unlike other stewards, we don't actually own this land. We lease it. So again, one of the other constraints here is the long-term ownership of the property, where we can't alter. In the sites that we own, we're more willing to work to do different things. Here we are a tenant.
So the other question is, are we close enough to call for a tentative resolution since we're 3 weeks out to the next planning board meeting and the ZBA is meeting prior, right? What, 2 weeks, ZBA? So that's, I mean, we could have conditions for the paint and striping being updated, and we could also have a condition at the ARB, take a look at the freezer cooler to see if there's any kind of cladding that can be put on it, or if the colors are adequate, at least make a recommendation. We could do that if everybody thinks that's okay, or we could wait to the end of the month and then say the same things and then have the resolution in November. I'm not sure what your timetable is, if you're looking to start this year on the upgrades, sir?
That we prefer to move as fast as possible.
Have you purchased the cooler yet?
We've ordered it, but that doesn't mean we have obtained it.
It's significant lead time on.
Yeah, all refrigeration.
So I think one of the things we had talked about earlier in a previous meeting was, the location of the condensing unit and the condenser to be put towards the rear. And also there's going to be piping that's generally attached to the outside of the coolers. There are jackets and sleeves that can cover the copper piping, or insulated jackets that can go over them that are a little bit more appealing visually. So if you know the actual brand, I'm sure they have a shop drawing or a layout drawing that would show that.
Okay.
It may be helpful to present at the next meeting so the board can take a look at what the unit actually looks like.
Okay. I can also get pictures.
All right, so the question is, do we still go forward with a tentative resolution, assuming they get their area variance as a condition? And, well, we'll know whether they got their area variance because it's ZBA. And then if we're not happy with, what your research shows, I mean, we could always pull the resolution.
Yeah, and I'm okay with the tentative resolution, but to the points that we've all made here, I think you know our desire relative to the look of the freezer and actually the general area. And so if you can do your best to accommodate that, at least then, we always have the ability to pull the resolution, but if we didn't have to pull it, that'd be a best case.
Yeah, I'll drive that way back and look. I know that there's, unlike, many of the other stewards, there's no parking in front of the building, which again is atypical. Again, because it's a site we don't own, and we didn't design the building, we retrofitted it. But I'll take a look to see what we can.
Yeah, and you don't have to wait for the ZBA. If you have anything, you can send it to the planning department. They can get it out to the board members so we can, be up to date and be ready to go with the next meeting.
Yep,
Okay,
I'll be prepared.
all right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll have a tentative resolution.
Yep, unless anybody's opposed to that. Yeah, okay, thank you. All right, we'll move on to discussion items. First up being Empire Drive, the application for a 2-lot minor subdivision. We have the applicant and the applicant's engineer here. And I guess what you could, do is obviously bring us up to date. Since last time we've met, you submitted the stormwater analysis and can brief us and the public on that. And if you can answer the questions about the trees at all, that we'd appreciate that.
Okay. Since the last time we met,
Oh, wait, Owen, can you identify yourself?
Yep.
And also pull that closer.
Owen Spoolstra with CT Mail. From the last time we met, I came, we prepared a drainage report for the site. What we're proposing is still the swale along the northern property line to divert the water around. So none of the water from the driveway or houses will drain towards the north or the Empire Drive lots. That water would flow from around the houses, either to the north of the houses or the south of the houses, and be directed to a gravel diaphragm at the rear of the proposed area to be cut towards the rear of the house on lot 1, the rear of the lot yard. That gravel diaphragm would take any water that's gotten concentrated, would direct it back into a sheet flow, and that flow would flow overland through the filter strip that's approximately 120 feet wide. And that's the treatment practice that we're proposing. The Stormwater Design Manual allows for filter strips to be used for this kind of situation. And the theory behind it is that the water is sheet flowing and it will perk back into the ground because it slows down the velocity, dissipates the velocity and any concentrated flow. And so it gives it a chance to to percolate back into the ground. So that's what we proposed with this site. As far as the trees, there's minor grading on here, and I don't know which trees or if we're even near those trees, to be honest with you. Any large trees that are in the footprint of the house or the driveways, probably would need to be removed. But large trees, and that where there's minor grading, I don't think none of this development that we're proposing would affect those trees.
Laura, did the tree council get out there yet?
We're trying to schedule something for next week.
All right.
I was able to walk the site Friday with Mr. Jerome and his wife and Clark. And we did notice that there would be a few larger mature trees in the area for clearing, but that there are also some that are outside the boundary of clearing on the eastern end of the property, which I can't imagine how construction would impact those. The limit of clearing appears to be quite a ways from the proposed residence on Lot 2. And I was able to gain a general appreciation for the three zones, E1, 2, and 3, that are shown on one of the drawings and in the storm water management report. And so although the filter strip is a new concept to me, I can see how if you're able to direct the flow from impervious surfaces created by the two new residences toward that western property boundary, you're dealing with most of the runoff through that filter strip. Last I heard, we had yet to get a quote back for a TDE. It sounds like we identified the firm that would be reviewing your report and giving us and you any feedback or questions, follow-up questions on that report.
Okay.
I note that there is an area provided for a little tree buffer between the two proposed residences, and that there's an area provided for tree buffer between all of the neighbors. In some instances, the buffer is there's not much buffer, but that's really a function of existing conditions. The site, I was impressed with just generally the kind of evenness of the site, how it kind of slopes gently from east to west, and it's relatively flat the whole way. And we had received some rain the previous week, and I think some overnight rain, and underfoot, it really, I didn't notice any puddling or areas that were there was significant collection of water. In reading the soil analysis, I was curious to understand a little more about one of the assumptions made in your engineering report, all of the impervious area is shown in one of the three sections of the parcel. But if you were to sort of overlay E1, 2, and 3 with the site plan, you can see that there is some impervious surface on both, I believe, E2 and E3.
Yeah, that would be, if we did not grade and direct that impervious surface towards in the proposed condition area 2, then you're correct. It would flow. But the idea is that we would grade this in such a way that all the impervious surfaces would drain to 2. So essentially what happens is E3 gets smaller in the proposed condition, and the 2, if you want to compare them to, the area 2 would get larger in the proposed condition. So you swap some areas.
All right.
All right.
That makes a little more sense. And I'm assuming, though, that the swale has to be pretty large to direct anything coming from that side of the northern half of the parcel over a driveway, or any discharge from a driveway or a rooftop down a downspout onto the driveway.
It would definitely be something that you would notice when you're out there. You would notice it once it's done. That there is definitely a swale. It might look more like a graded area, but there would not be enough rainfall to, breach that side of the swale and head in the wrong direction. If that's the question, or.
I'll just reiterate the concerns that have been mentioned before by myself and other members of the board. That, this proposal for directing that flow in that manner over sheet flow over the driveways, it seems like a risky practice during the winter months. So I think assuming that we can kind of wrap our heads around that as a safe solution, the onus is still on both homeowners, being that they're private driveways, to make sure that they're clearing any standing water, de-icing, and I have concerns about there being some pooling in this area. Not on top of the driveway per se, but maybe in the area between the two driveways or on either side.
I believe actually the engineering department is going to require culverts into the driveways.
Okay.
Now, with culverts, do they have the option for a French drain if they don't like the look? I know that probably comes at a cost.
Well, I mean, I say that, but I think, and Claire can jump in here, that we have a similar driveway on Crescent that wanted to have the sheet flowing over the driveway, and the answer to that was no. You can figure out a way to do it, but we don't approve driveways that sheet flow water across them because of the icing in the winter.
That's something that'll be captured with the town designated engineer in the review. Okay. Anything else, Mr. McPartland?
No, I think I support this proposal to have a filter strip, 120-foot filter strip on the western end of the property. It's the lowest point of the property, and this practice, as compared to a retention pond, would preserve a lot more of the wooded area in this part of the parcel. So I do support that as a general site plan design.
And I think it's important to emphasize that if it can be done other ways. One way is with a large stormwater storage pond, but that would be at the expense of trees and so on and so forth on the site. So this solution preserves as much of the green space as possible, and you're utilizing it as part of the stormwater management.
Yeah, and, that's part of the reason why the stormwater design manual allows you to use this. It preserves buffers, it gives you, and it's an incentive for developers to use it. It's more natural, preserves buffers and trees and where used, so.
Yeah, Laura, I don't recall in the past, but we do have other filter strips in the town, or I haven't seen it for a long time.
I mean, I can't think of one, but it's an acceptable practice, and I definitely echo Mr. McPartland's comments. I mean, I know the applicant came and there was a picture showing a complete deforestation of the entire parcel so that you could build a stormwater retention pond, or you can do a filter strip and have the forest absorb it. And it was my direction to them to have the forest absorb it, because once you build those ponds, sometimes they work good, but if you leave the forest, typically you're better off.
I agree with 100%. I just wanted to know if we actually had any hands-on experience that we can have in town.
I mean, I don't know every single treatment that's ever been put in town. When we do subdivisions, we'll typically see the ponds.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm in support of this one as well.
Just got a couple of questions as far as design work. Obviously, we'll hear back from the TDE, the potential for a culvert. Is there any other open items from the design standpoint for these lots? Are you guys aware of anything? Or
No.
okay, the other question I have is looking at your recommended conclusions in section 5. I'll just read from it. Stormwater management facilities outlets shall also be regularly inspected at a minimum in fall and spring and after large rainfall events and kept free of debris. This is from your report.
Yeah.
Such that the design volume is maintained and the outlets continue to be functional. So the question is, who does that?
Typically, it's the homeowners that would do something like that. Or, in a case of a larger development, they would have a maintenance agreement put in. But in this situation, it would be the onus would be on the homeowners. And there's little to no maintenance on these. I mean, if there's a culvert, then
Make sure it's open, yeah.
that's open. With the filter strip, the gravel diaphragm to make
Yeah.
sure that, there's not stuff clogging up that diaphragm and not having it work. That would be the other maintenance. And that's another benefit of this is that it's so low maintenance. So
Yeah, as long as the homeowner's aware of it and understands that, So that may be something that we at least capture in the resolution, so that if it goes forward on record, with the filing of the deed, so on and so forth, just so it's captured, that they're aware of it, make sure it's communicated.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, typically we have a note that the stormwater treatment practices are on the plot plans for the homes when you're building them. It's obviously they'll also be on the subdivision plan, but it's an advantage to have them on the plot plan because that's what people have more than their subdivision plans, and those typically transfer when houses are being sold. So just a note, about the stormwater, being on the plot plan when the home is being built is usually pretty good notification to future property owners.
Okay, also, there's one other comment I had, let's see, and I think this is one of the older, oh, no, it's not the older document, it's the document that shows the E1, E2, E3 areas, it's page 21 of our packet. I think that's it. Let me see if I can find what I was looking for. I thought that was it.
In the full plan set, will we see a detail of the diaphragm?
Yes.
Okay. And what depth is that?
Typically, they're 1 to 2 feet deep.
Okay. Just kind of,
Yeah,
just enough to.
yeah, page 21 of the packet, found it. It's where it shows E1, E2, E3. If you look to the far right of the drawing and you scroll to the far right, there's looks like a copy and paste error. It includes 18 self-service vacuum spaces from a, have to
Yeah,
clean
I
that
caught
drawing.
that.
did you catch that?
I caught that.
Okay.
I
Yeah,
don't think it's in that one now.
Right.
It's at the top, I believe, in the one that there was one that went out
Yeah, something was in a
Wow.
copy and paste memory, probably ended up in the
Yeah.
drawing, okay?
Yeah, that was from a Hoffman's car wash.
Yeah, that would make sense. Okay, just want to point that out. And, okay, no more design work. We'll capture that needs to be maintained and basically send it to the town designated engineer to get the overview of your work and
And then if the tree,
the tree council. And
yeah.
tree council also take a look at the large trees that were mentioned tonight. At least identify where they're located, whether they're, to be removed because they're within the building envelope or whether they're outside the building envelope. The tree council will walk the site and help us out with that.
Yeah, so typically, all trees within the building footprint in the driveway are allowed to be removed. And the tree council is really just looking at clearing on the edges, like to Owen's point, where there's possibility, if it's close, then you save it, or they flag it. But trees in the footprint of the house.
Understand, but the public had a concern with the large oaks and not sure where they're located. So as they do their walk, maybe they can help us out with that, whether they are or not, are to remain or not. Would be nice to know.
And I just had a question, is the area for the filter strip, is that put into a conservation easement or is that just as part of the stormwater system maintained as an open forest area? Like, how does that work?
It's proposed to be just left open,
And never cleared
yes.
because it's part of the stormwater management area? Yeah.
No problem.
I mean, I don't think so, but like it's, I guess I leave it up to Elena too. Like we have no clear buffers for wetlands and stuff, and we just put those on plot plans. Those aren't conservation easements, but we do struggle sometimes with people going into them and clearing them later on. But I mean, I don't know that it would have to be treated any differently than like a wetland buffer, but, conservation easements are better.
I think you can ask for information is there.
I'd suggest we talk to the TDE about it and then we'll come back with our recommendation.
Okay. The other question I had, I guess it's not that serious, but this is a stub road. Does the road have to be named? Or are these addresses? I know that's within something that you take a look at with the county, right, Laura?
Yeah, so
the-
I actually did look at that and it's problematic. The reason it's not under an address right now is that there's only, I think, 4. So they're even on one side, on this side, and there's only a difference of 4 between the two properties. So I can't fit 2 even addresses in between. I can do like an A and a B, which is not great, or we could name the stub.
And who would name the stub? Would that be the town or because it's not within this applicant's property, or isn't there property line? No, it's not.
I mean, it
Which
can
part?
be either. If the applicant has a proposal for the stub, I mean, the town pays to put the sign up typically, but
Yeah. So it would be 2 new addresses for these properties.
and it would be a new road sign. But it is a little, the reason it's not under an address in this is because it's difficult to address the way
Right.
that it is right now.
Yeah, I was just looking at it and I was looking at the report that came. Okay,
There is a precedent for using the letters, though. There's, I think, 1 and 1A on Knowles Road.
It does happen. I mean, it happens. Sometimes you can't fit the addresses in. It can be
Not ideal.
not ideal.
Yeah.
But sometimes the stub road where it's hard for people to know where that street is located is also hard. So I don't know, you guys can think about it. Like if you
Yeah,
like
make a
to make your
suggestion.
own street name, we can add it in there. Otherwise,
we know what he's thinking.
probably like an A
Bob
and
Drive.
a B.
Bob Drive, Jarleman, right? Lane.
Jonathan. Jonathan is an apple, and we have some volunteer apple trees on our property that are Jonathan's, and all the trees in the Empire are
Yeah.
named after different
We
apples.
just have to
Yeah,
see
you
if
have
there's,
Gava.
we
Mhm.
just have to see if there's any other
Yeah, I don't think we do, but I can
streets
check.
in the town with the same name, that's all. Okay, well, Laura, check on that. All right,
Chairman Walsh, I just had a question, maybe directed at Owen. I thought you did a very nice job with this stormwater report. I would propose that whether it's Owen or the TDE, because we did have quite a few people with concerns about drainage, that someone kind of explain that report a little more thoroughly. I looked through it very carefully, and you could figure out the design inputs and the outputs. But one of the things that you have going for you is very good soil, the best of the 4 soil classifications. So it might be good to just explain it in a little more detail, how HydroCAD works, just from a really top level. My suggestion.
Sure. Now or in the next meeting or?
Maybe at the next meeting, maybe not
Okay.
now, but at the next meeting. Just a concise explanation of that, because it's a nice document, but I think some of the neighboring people might not be familiar with a drainage report.
Okay.
And that can go hand in hand. If we get any comments from the town designated engineer that you need to respond to, I guess we can do that all at once. That would make sense.
Okay.
All right, so we'll get that off to a TDE. You got some, and I think that's it, right? Is there anything else that we need to take care of right now? You're getting close.
All right.
All
Thank
right,
you.
we'll get all right, thank you very much. TDE, town designated engineer, would be hired to review the stormwater report at the expense of the applicant, of course. Okay, just to make that clear to the public. All right, that's it on Empire Drive for tonight. We'll move to next item, which is 1747 Union Street, Rosada Gas Station, site plan application for the 492 square foot addition to the existing 1455 square foot retail and gas station.
Yes,
Mr. Kaufman, how are you?
doing okay. Just been a thank you for having me here. It's been a little bit long day. Yes, and a long weekend. Just I'm Jewish also, so I was practicing Rosh Hashanah, and so it's been a busy time spending with my rabbi and stuff like that, and at the
So
service.
thank you for being here.
So, yes, I sent in a new site plan on Friday. I do understand that it was a little bit short notice. I thank you for still allowing me to speak. I did talk with the client. I think the first thing was snow storage. There was it's questions of how are you handling snow storage. The snow storage, they usually, if it's a small to medium store, they'll just clear it out and just have it taken away. If it's a heavy storm, then there will be some storage of some snow next to parking space 4, right in the back. I don't know if you need me to like basically describe that on the plan of how that's done, or as an amount. But basically they would either do it like up there. They could also do some along the side next to the handicap spot. But I don't exactly like that myself because that's where the handicap spot is. I don't think that's usually a good idea. I think it's best to have just the area right next to parking space 4 as the place for the heavy snow storage.
So just make a note on the drawing.
Yeah, so I can make a note of that if that's acceptable to you.
You don't have a lot of choices, it looks like.
Well, I mean, that's why I thought we discuss it instead of just throwing it on the plans.
This is the one that was in the packet. How does the latest proposal differ from what we have that was in our packet, Mr. Kaufman?
For the lighting, you said?
Just for anything in general, you said that.
I do have some renders that were some better renders. I can't remember if I emailed them to you or if I do have them on paper here. If I can show them to you. So I can pass them. I can pass over the renders. Oh, yeah. Oh, so that's for the old one. This one's more zoomed in to show the actual doors on the one that's being passed around. So that one shows.
There was a door in the storefront to the left that's being filled in.
Yes.
Yeah. So a couple of the updates are the southwest corner has the ingress and egress was changed to just the egress.
Yes.
And then the other thing along Van Antwerp Road shows a raised sidewalk and curb.
Yes. That's
To
the
the left
next,
of the
that's the
filling
next thing I was going to discuss.
Yeah.
So-
So I had a chance to take a look. I actually saw a gas delivery the other morning there, and the tanker truck does come in at the back of the lot, does come back out, watched it fill up. The only concern that I have about improving the sidewalk with a raised section in that location is that I think because of the proximity to Van Antwerp Road with the county that plows that road and also maintains the sidewalks along Van Antwerp, that I think that concrete curb and sidewalk is going to take a pretty good amount of abuse from plows.
That was one thing that's one thing that I was a little worried about too, is that how are we going to, the raising it up question is how much to raise it. If we raise it up a half foot, yes, it's going to take some punishment from the plows. And then also, what kind of buffer area do we have? Do you have a buffer area of asphalt both on the property and next to Van Antwerp? What kind of buffer area do we have?
Well, it's not shown here, but there's
But
a few
that's
feet.
what was-
There's a few feet to the road edge where the pavement comes in because the sidewalk serpentines in a couple feet, comes down and connects to the Union. I just think that having the raised sidewalk there is going to be problematic for several months out of the year, just strictly for snow removal. A couple benefits are that it would help delineate the pedestrian access a little bit, but along that entire length, it's just a tight sidewalk on a very
It
tight
is.
piece of property next to a busy road. So,
I
I mean, the only benefit that your property has outside of the rest of Van Antwerp is that it does come in a couple feet off of the road edge. And then as you get off the edge of the property going north, it's right back to the curb cut.
I talked to the clients. I talked to Sal and his contractor both on Friday, and they're willing to improve that sidewalk in that area to whoever sees fit to satisfy the planning commission. So they definitely reiterated that. That both Mohammed Waliat, who's going to be the contractor for him, and Sal, they definitely want this project to go forward, so they're willing to work with them. I'm raising it. Yes, is going to be some punishment. There could be a way to. I do know that, right, we have about a foot between the pole and the actual sidewalk itself. I measured that.
Mhm.
So there is some space there. We could flare it up to it. That still, yes, it's going to take punishment from the snow plows.
So just my opinion, pedestrian safety to me is way more important than punishment from snow plows. Like,
Yes.
okay, it gets punished from snow plows, but right now, it's just a free for all for cars to drive wherever they want there.
And that's the reason why, they're willing to have curbs and sidewalk raised if that is.
Yeah, it's not gonna be any worse for any other part of the side compared to any other part of the sidewalk, right?
I just don't think it's going to be maintainable after a couple of years.
And I have that concern as well.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be very difficult to maintain it.
I mean, I could see if it goes in, I do agree, pedestrian safety in that area, if we can enhance it, it would be great. But unless there's an overall plan where Van Antwerp is going to, the county's going to do something and they go to replace that sidewalk, I could see that. I think the move on the southwest corner is better. I'd rather see that money put into better, more enhanced landscaping or, something on the facade or cleaning up the facade as opposed to.
Well, they are going to definitely clean up the facade.
Right.
They did say that. I'm sorry.
I mean, so the original plan was to at least put a curb, right? Going back to the pedestrian safety, was to put a curb right close to the fueling station
Right, on the property.
on the property.
That's because we, of course, we don't own the right of way.
Mhm.
So that's where I proposed it before. Now, I realize that can also be considered to be, if we just have a curb there, it can be a tripping hazard too for people.
Well, I mean, all along Van Antwerp, the curb
it's-
cuts go up and down. There's got to be 40 driveways between
Right.
there and the school. So
Yes,
that's not the issue. The issue, and I do know that Ms. Robertson had the observation that, we know cars cut through this corner if it is raised, but that's not where the cars go through. They cut just south of that.
right.
That's where so if you even the raised sidewalk, I don't think is going to be a deterrent for a car cutting through. It's just going to be nice for a couple years until it gets beat up by not only those plows, but also, the county's going to be plowing right up against it too. So
Just to clarify, is the sidewalk continues to where the buffer is on the southwest corner?
there's a full sidewalk down Van Antwerp. It's just completely flush with the road, the asphalt. There's concrete there. It's just
Yeah,
In
it's
this proposed plan, the sidewalk, in this plan, it raises up by the stations. And then it goes back down, and then it goes back up again where the buffer is at the corner, correct?
no.
Why wouldn't it?
That's a
So,
good
like-
question. I mean,
Like, if it did that, I'm not concerned about
Probably-
plows at all.
probably do want to raise
Because
that
it's a
there.
straight line and that's really acting more as a deterrent for cars cutting through.
Okay, you're talking about right at the corner itself, right at the intersection?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, VA Van Antwerp has a raised sidewalk until it gets to your parking lot,
Okay,
to the applicant's parking lot. So then it's going to go down because there's a road access. And then it's going to go up in the middle, then it's go down, then it's going to go back up, I would assume, at the end to delineate that this is a walking path, that all plows would see a straight line when they're coming down Van Antwerp.
so you're talking about all the way along Van Antwerp?
I thought that that's what would be proposed, but you are not incorrect. We really focused on just by the pumps in our discussion.
That's what we were focusing on. It can be revised.
I just want to ask the question.
No,
If it
no,
were a
I-
straight line all the way to the corner, then I would be less concerned about a plow being able to find a line of sight.
Right, so you're saying if we get curbs along all three spots, basically, raising it up. I think what you're saying is on the site plan,
Yeah, right where that sign, the monument sign is and also the telephone pole. So where's the curb? The curb is just west of the telephone pole proposed, right? The telephone pole would be in the sidewalk about a foot. Is that what you said?
No,
there's only one,
the sidewalk's in the same place. It's just going to be elevated, or what's shown here on this plan is just
Yeah.
elevated in the exact same place.
So
Yes.
plows have to watch out for the telephone pole.
yeah, so the telephone poles are already,
Not
that is the
sidewalk.
thing. The telephone pole is going to already be there.
But
So-
it's gonna be west of the curb.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, so the telephone pole is already going to be, the telephone pole is already telling the plows to not plow the sidewalk. To not plow the sidewalk basically as a,
I don't know if we're trying to solve something that we
Does-
really shouldn't be solving.
Does the county plow
Yeah.
leave a pile of snow in the area of those telephone poles? Do we know?
I
No, it's
Honestly,
removed
So
because
it's all cleared out.
that's all cleared out there.
But that part of that is the work of someone hired by the property owner to clean up the
I think
site.
so. The plows come around the corner, snow's moved to the rear of the property. That's always been relatively cleared out. I don't recall it having large snow banks or anything piled in that area. It would be a visual issue for people coming down Van Antwerp trying to take a left on Union. And there's sidewalks there which have to be cleared, so.
Yes.
I think the existence of those poles would minimize the pressure that it would feel from the plows.
All right, so just so I'm clear, so either, sounds like there's three options, sidewalk as is, maybe some striping, right? Raised at strategic locations so that it's level to get in ingress and egress throughout the site, or a raised sidewalk the whole way. That's what we're just talking about, right? Is that what we're talking about?
You can't do a raised sidewalk the whole way.
Not the whole.
Yeah.
The first, okay, so I just want to, because I'm just trying,
Right, yeah.
there's a lot of discussion. I'll make sure I got it right here. what we're talking
Right,
about.
right. I think the,
So,
if you don't mind me,
no, please do.
no, thank you. I think the discussion is to either, if you provide a raised sidewalk over here, am I getting that from this, the local plans, point of view? That's what they're trying to.
Consistent with the rest of Van Antwerp.
Right. To raise the sidewalk over here, and then the other question is also, do we put some kind of raised sidewalk over here also?
And in the middle also, three locations, is that true?
I think that's.
A given.
That's where,
Yeah.
that's where we
Okay.
The question is, do we raise up?
Yeah, see, that's a good image right there. You could just follow the line all the way down.
Basically, are we gonna raise, see, this goes down right here to this driveway or this house, and then there's nothing raised. So the question is, this has already been removed, of course, but are we gonna raise up this area? And then the question is, scroll down. Are we gonna raise this area over here?
Actually, I have a question for Laura. Can you go back to the other perspective? No, just the other angle that you had of the streetscape. Does the jurisdiction change between Schenectady and Niskayuna? The sidewalk is not aligned with the sidewalk that's on the applicant's property. So
No.
why would that not continue all the way straight down?
There's no jurisdictional change, but sidewalks don't have to be directly on the edge of the road. If they are directly on the edge of the road, they often have that curb like you see here. But this isn't like the most beautiful of all inset sidewalks, but a lot of times you'll see an inset sidewalk that has grass. So you have the edge of pavement, then grass, then the sidewalk. This just happens to have edge of pavement, then asphalt, then sidewalk, which I think is another reason why it sort of feels like you're walking through a no man's land, even though you have a concrete sidewalk going through there.
So Mr. McPartland raised this the last time, and I was looking at it just from the extensiveness that it would require, but this sidewalk eventually should actually be raised in strategic locations around the entire property, shouldn't it?
And that was what
So
Mr. Fromm
further
said.
on Union Street.
That's
Yeah.
what
No, but I don't mean now, so not just the 3 points you mentioned, but also on Union Street.
I think that's part of the complete, that part of the complete streets when complete
Yeah.
streets. I don't know what the complete streets, I don't know what your complete streets plan of the whole, of the town of Niskayuna
Yeah.
is.
Because the sidewalk becomes flat on Union by the bank, right?
there's no curb. The
Well,
curb
so
isn't raised.
What if the cheaper thing to do over here though is to dig out around the poles and put grass? Because then at least you're delineating the
and then put a
sidewalk from the
curb on the
road.
west side of the poles?
You'd
'Cause,
make
like,
Van
look.
Antwerp smaller.
No, like this area right here.
That could be grass. Yes, there could be some
Mm.
asphalt removed. We could remove the asphalt that's right next to the pavement.
Right in
On
here.
the, within the road right away. That could be removed.
That because then it would look like that's exactly what is here. Look,
But isn't that in the road?
I mean it's not
Yeah.
like the most
It's
beautiful
partial,
thing
it's in the
ever.
road right away, yes.
But like, look, that's exactly what is right here. Is they just removed asphalt and put grass there.
It's
Sounds nice.
quite, I guess the question is, this is a county road, not a DOT road. This is
It's a county road.
county road, so
right.
we have to get a county permit for that?
Probably like a shoulder permit, but I don't think it would be very hard to get.
Right.
No.
Well, isn't this part of Union Street that
Please pull your microphone forward.
Yeah,
Isn't
pull it
this
right
part
to
of
you.
Union Street where the street was adjusted over time?
Right to you. That's why I got you
I
one,
remember
Leslie.
Union Street being widened and then brought down, and I'm not sure if it included this property, but I think it might have.
So Union, the county owns Union Street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they've changed it over the years. They changed it one way, then they changed it back.
As far as right of way or sidewalks?
I'm talking about the actual road.
You mean,
Because at one time they tried to make it wider than it had been.
it was,
I'm going way back in time.
Yeah, I don't know.
And then they brought it back down. So I think some of what is reflects that.
Well, if our goal is to try to look at updating this corner to make it look like the rest of the surrounding area and bring some shape and safety, it just like this street right here, the telephone poles between the sidewalk and the curb. And then I would think it would be the same way on Van Antwerp, all the way down to Union. And that would be consistent with the sidewalk all the way up Van Antwerp.
Yeah. Well, the point I'm making though is that this sidewalk is actually flush with the pavement the same way that it is on Van Antwerp. But the Union Street side at least has these carve outs so that if you're walking, I think you kind of know, okay,
So
here's a
Conrad
place at the
Curve,
kind
Van Antwerp, I see that.
Yeah, I could definitely support
Flat,
but delineating
right here.
the same zones in grass, cleaning up that road edge, as long as the grass is maintained, this is part of this enhancement. Then I think we're getting some benefit that's going to delineate some pedestrian things. It would, in my opinion, it would eliminate the raised curb. The other thing too, just to address Mr. Laflamme's comment about getting to the corner, if they did bring them up and down at the islands where they currently are, whatever the final configuration is, as you get back to the corner, then they have to put in the ADA strips and they got to go back down again. So that's a quick transition just at that corner where they're expanding the one island. But in this conversation, I like more and more the idea of adding the grass strip, the terrace back in.
Getting rid of the asphalt. I think it's going to look much nicer also. Because it really, what right now is the problem is that you have so much asphalt that it makes it feel like a total no man's land.
Right.
By getting rid of the asphalt around the poles and making it into a nice grass seed that's going to last, that would be a much more.
Well, let's talk about that for a second. There is a perimeter curb on the one that's on Union, correct?
Yes.
Only in the back, though.
So that was the whole concept to me, that there would be something raised, doesn't have to be the sidewalk, that prevents cars from just driving right onto the sidewalk.
Well,
But there's nothing there to see that one.
Yeah.
Well, on the inside there is. On the interior, there is a curb.
Right, yeah, on the site plan, I think you're talking about the site plan.
No, the interior
Okay,
grassy
yes.
patch has a curve around it, just like the one to the left, just like the one that would be on Van Antwerp.
Yeah, but he doesn't have that room on the interior.
There's no room,
where
the pump is so close to the road. There's no room on the, on to the east of the sidewalk for a grass area.
I see what you're saying.
Laura, can you show the other side of the intersection between Union and Balltown? On the other side of Van Antwerp.
I think you're talking about from the pizza place.
Right,
Pizza place
yeah,
on
right
Crawford
there,
Street.
right where the seamstress is, right where that blue.
that's all asphalt.
So that's asphalt, yeah.
If you were to turn counterclockwise though, down Union, is that sidewalk raised?
Yes.
It starts at the corner.
Yep.
Right. 'cause I
It'd be
think-
nice to extend. It'd be nice to
It
extend
raises up
that along Union as best we can.
I do understand. I do understand
think
what's.
keeping it
what-
flat has
what
its
they're-
benefits
what
for
they're-
people
what they're
backing
talking
out
about.
of that Commerce Place, and maybe that's the biggest piece that we haven't discussed, but we've all thought about. Not that there's not nearly as much traffic as there was when Homestyle was there, but that was clearly how people got in and out of Homestyle.
I'm talking about, though, as you're driving along Union, I like the idea of a little more uniformity
I do too.
of the sidewalk up and down Union Street.
So is,
Is,
as
I
a
don't know if
client, are
it's-
they allowed to do that? Metroplex did that work, did they not? For the sidewalk improvements there?
To that corner.
Right.
I mean, I'm not 100% sure on that, but I believe actually the line for the city of the town and the city is very close to here.
Mhm.
That's the city.
Oh,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it cuts, the city actually cuts through the half of the pizzeria and then comes down and then, as you know, slices back through the rear of
Yes.
Stewart's property. So,
Was the pun intended?
there you go.
Well, it's unfortunate
Yeah.
that as a pedestrian, when you enter the town of Niskayuna, you're greeted with less of a sidewalk, I must say.
They're like that.
Well, if you go on to Molino, that's raised.
Yeah,
You
Molino
got a
did
bus stop
the-
there.
Yeah, it's raised over there.
Well, we did that when we did the,
Correct.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It's just inconsistent, but
I'm okay with concrete. The grass is nice, but it's hard to maintain that small strip, especially at winter after winter.
Okay, so you're
Road
talking,
salt,
so you're talking about,
It's easier to fence.
talking about if talking about actually curbing Union Street as part of this site plan.
well, I'm not, that sounds like even more work. I guess I'm
I mean-
echoing Mr. Laflamme's, I guess,
question.
I was not sure, I was not aware that there's no curb on Union Street. There's no raised curb on Union Street,
Correct.
Yeah,
even on the corner, which the corner seems like an area where you'd want a raised curb because that's where pedestrians queue to wait for a safe moment to
Right,
cross.
yeah, yeah, there's, I see there's a crosswalk, but there's not even a,
It's not raised, it's flat.
there's not even a light that basically says this is time to walk, this is not time to walk there also.
Yeah.
Raising the sidewalk there, okay, so right now there's an ADA red spot there. There's an ADA ramp there, but there's not nothing's raised there right now. We just have the poles.
yeah, it's for all intents and purposes, it's basically flat on the entire property
Yes.
at road level. So I guess in order to try to give Mr. Kaufman some direction, are we looking to come up with some landscaping enhancements on that tree strip along Van Antwerp and improve as much as we can on Union Street? As far as just adding greenery, adding or maintaining greenery
Yeah.
in the curb cut areas.
That curb, if you look on the west side of Van Antwerp, the concrete curb ends very quickly. It bleeds right into the asphalt. It's just enough that it's kind of a distinction between the roadway and the sidewalk.
But that wouldn't be the applicant's responsibility, right? On that corner,
But actually,
On Van Antwerp,
on Van Antwerp and Union.
That's,
on the Union side, it sounds like historically that's been Metroplex or, well, no, we asked Molino to do it.
Well, that, just to be fair though, that was a brand new building.
Yes.
Yeah.
right, this is not this is an addition. This is not a brand new. Right, this gas station's been in business for many years.
I mean,
And he was tearing up a lot of it for the project.
you know, I think the suggestion Laura made is probably the most consistent and maybe the better one. We should just continue those green areas, those grassy areas.
Yeah, I mean, I
in the
like
appropriate locations on that.
I think that's the way.
I like the curb, but I feel like that should be part of a larger project that the town
Yeah,
works
sure.
on.
Yeah.
And
If
for
we're gonna
this
do
one,
everything with-
yeah, if it doesn't make sense to raise the concrete because then mirror what's happening over on Union Street with some grassy thingies, it was probably cheaper to do and will work just
Yeah,
as
I mean,
well.
the pole in Union's got it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it looked just
right
like
now.
this. The pole would be in the grass like that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mimic that is what I think our ask
At
is.
the key locations, on the corner and
Okay,
Along the pumps.
and along the pumps.
I can
On
definitely,
spring,
yeah.
the grass is a lot easier to fix than pavement.
Mhm.
I also think it would give people, well, not that it would be, of course, it would be aesthetically more pleasing, but I also think at a first glance, I think a lot of, now I'm not saying an age group would jump that sidewalk, though I'm sure a lot of folks do. But I think when you see greenery, you're less likely to say, oh, we can just go over. I just think it would,
Yeah, I mean,
think would
that's one of
enhance-
the reasons why we're gonna make sure there's shrubs in all the, I wanted to add those, I'm adding the trees, or they're not gonna, they're not gonna be allowed to grow much taller than the shrubs they have now, but the shrubs that'll be added on the Union Street. That's why we're calling out all these shrubs, all on Union Street. So that's going to also provide some landscaping.
Right, but they'll need to get that shoulder permit from,
From the county, I would definitely just, go to the county and say, we're gonna dig this out and put grass and it's probably just a shoulder permit
right,
with
but let's
them.
be clear. So we're gonna do it in the corner. We're currently looking at over by the pumps
Right here?
and back up at the,
Right here.
Okay,
right?
The length of the pump
Mhm.
station
Yeah.
foundation.
yes.
Lot better than curbs and raising cement and raising.
Oh, yeah, I know the client will be happy to hear that, instead of having to raise up the sidewalk.
Great.
That's
Okay.
plant the right kind of grass and we're good.
All right. What other open items we have?
Pretty much it.
That was it.
That's it?
Yeah, I think there was one question to me about the lighting last time. All the lighting will be pointed down for any additions. Right now, the lighting is pointing down for around the building, and the lighting will be pointed will be pointed down. So
All right.
for any improvements.
And how about any town engineering review or TDE review? Is it required for this application?
They're not making any, I mean, maybe if they were gonna build a sidewalk, we'd have them look at it, but
Okay, so just the county notification. Of
Mhm.
All right. And then you're going to mark the snow storage area on the drawing.
Yes.
Yep.
Can we go to a resolution that I will have the new?
No, that's my next
plans?
question.
I'm comfortable with calling for resolution.
Okay. All right, so
Get
I
the pa-
will,
As long as you get the packet in advance.
I will definitely, well, the next meeting is the 24th, my understanding.
Correct, it's 3 weeks we have, so
I have a little more time than just the
you
17th.
no, it
get
doesn't
that
take you
in.
any more time. No.
No, but I mean, I do understand that. Okay,
Okay,
all right. And now, what, I mean, just, so basically the grass seed will be within, we'll keep it outside, basically outside, there's only one lane of road, in my understanding.
Yeah.
So-
The edge of the road you can see is
Right, yes. So basically it'll be all the edge of the road and then,
Right up to the sidewalk.
yes, okay.
and
All right.
or can we, I don't know if we can do this, can we request that the applicant maintain? I mean, even after,
They have to.
okay,
I mean, we can put it as a condition in the resolution to memorialize it. And we get this question sometimes from people like, well, if it's not my property, why do I mow it? But yes, you mow the grass in front of your property. That's the way to go. You'll get cited if you don't.
And they have 2 or 3 other examples they have to mow anyhow, just one more.
But we can put a memorial condition.
I
Okay.
just, because it might get rough, especially after the salt and after the winter and the snow, and whatever cars may attempt to jump it, hopefully not, but it would, I think it's gonna get old beat. I'd like to at least know that it's gonna be maintained and eventually it will become green again after the winter.
Yeah, I mean, I can put in the plan about the seating and to put there in the stipulations that it will be maintained.
Yeah, I think that'd be great.
Okay,
Yeah, and the other thing, Nancy, is that I think Tree Council and Planning Board and CAC all said the landscaping is very important to this property. So we could just put a general condition, like in the resolutions, that the landscaping is very important and needs to be maintained, including the grassy areas and that kind of
And
thing.
it behooves the applicant. It makes the property look so much nicer, so.
Yeah, I think this is a good solution.
okay. All right.
all right, so we got a path forward. Thank you, Mr. Kaufman.
I thank you all very much. Are there any other last minute discussions
No,
or
all set.
comments? Okay. I thank you very much. I will I will get those plans worked on. I would think we probably need at least a week to review them before you, okay,
Yeah, we don't have a lot of time.
I understand. No problem. I will
Alright.
do that.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
All right. Next up is 2209 Knott Street, and that's the broken in. We have Mr. Nicky online tonight.
Yes, good evening. How are you?
Great, thank you. I think what we just was, we have a brief discussion. We don't have anything new as far as submittals, but you're going to talk about maybe a discussion with Metroplex or something along those lines?
Yeah, just real briefly, we will have our drawing updated for the next meeting. I didn't want to be on the agenda and not address the board. I did do a walkthrough with Jamie LaHutt from Metroplex, myself, Jamie LaHutt, a representative for Carver and Dan Lang as well of Lang's Pharmacy. It's my understanding that Metroplex intends to pave the parking lot on the Clifton Park Road side of our building beginning 2 weeks from today on October 17th. I'm under the impression it's going to take between 3 and 5 days. And at that same point, it will not be raised, but they are going to stamp an area to essentially extend the sidewalk along the Clifton Park Road side of the building just past our side entrance door, which helps in terms of the plans that we are trying to get approved for both surface and also to delineate where the sidewalk is from where any outdoor seating area and any parking area might be. Other than that, I don't have anything more to report except that work apparently is being done 2 weeks from now, and myself, a representative for Lang's, a rep of Carver, and Jamie LaHutt from Metroplex all met to see exactly what they plan to do, and that's where we're at.
So is Metroplex following any of the delineations on your current drawing?
Sort of the opposite. Our drawing is being updated to reflect what Metroplex is doing because
Okay.
we won't even be able to come back before this board in time based on when Metroplex is doing that work. That work will be done before this board meets again.
So what specific striping are they going to be doing? I know you mentioned it, but do you mind refreshing?
So they told us they will not be striping. They were notified by the town that okay to pave, but not okay to stripe. So it doesn't at all interfere with what we are presenting, but it does give us certainly a nicer, more usable, safe surface for all purposes, parking or otherwise.
Okay.
And just to clarify, it's not raised because it can't be raised because of the threshold of the door. And
Correct. And for the handicap accessibility
And
that
that-
leads to the sidewalk.
yeah, and then lowering the non-stamped area would be regrading the street, and that would be too costly, right?
I also don't think that anyone is intending to do anything other than make what's existing a smoother surface that also gives something of a visual as to where people should be walking. That's really the extent.
Does this plan that they have any indication as to what the Crescent meets Clifton Park intersection corner planter discussion that we've had? Any insight from them?
They've seen our design. It doesn't interfere with what they're looking to do, but it's far more complex, if you will, or has far more detail to it than what they're looking to do. I think to not strip it down or simplify it too much, they want to pave. They want to pave, and they want to make sure that they essentially extend a stamped sidewalk-looking area that is not raised another 20 or so feet, 30 or so feet along our side entrance.
Yeah, the timing is just a little unfortunate because things got beat up during the construction, so they want to pave because they don't want more damage to happen over the winter. So they want to seal all of these adjacent areas and make them look nice and fix the drainage. But it doesn't give them the flexibility to wait until we know where the striping is going to be and do any of that. So it's just a compromise. They're going to make the asphalt out there look a lot better. It doesn't preclude anything that we're doing. But unfortunately, like, we're not able to leverage their workers and be like, can you add a little bit extra because we haven't fully done our planning process. But it won't hurt anything that's
Yeah, I mean,
happening.
at the end of the day, our responsibility will be striping and putting in the the bollards, parking bollards.
Yeah.
Yeah. Barriers.
Got it. Thank you.
Did Metroplex share their plan with you?
Yes, they did.
Is there a graphic that would help us any? No.
I mean, I can share it with you guys. It's just showing, like, they're basically paving the alleyway, the parking lots behind the buildings, and the parking lot adjacent to this building, just because they got so beat up.
They're not going to do fog line or anything?
No, nope. Again, their timing is
At
just,
least that.
so their timing is, well, we haven't gotten to the point where we know where it would go or anything. It's just a timing issue. I think they would be willing to help, but we can't give them very clear direction. It hasn't gone to the town board. Like, the planning board can't say put a line there. It's, it's just tough. But they're going to go in and fix all the asphalt and the drainage. So that will be taken care of.
And
And
the
then,
parking orientation, right? That's part of this too?
no, I told them,
Not the
I
stripe.
told them not to stripe because
Nope.
we don't know where the stripes are going to go.
I'm sorry, not the striping, just
Yeah.
the orientation change.
No, they're not.
They're just paving.
They're just paving.
Just pave, okay.
Basically, restoring it to somewhat better than it was.
It got some damage during construction, and some of it was damaged before. Yeah.
All right, and then, Mr. Nicky, you'll have an updated drawing that you've been working on for our next meeting, right?
Correct. And that'll reflect the work that Metroplex is doing in terms of that stamped area, as well as all of the notes that we've gotten so far. My designer was unreachable until earlier today. He is a student who just went back to school, and I took second fiddle. So we're on the same page now. I will see you in 3 weeks.
All right, so the other, go ahead, David. You have something?
No, I guess just the unfortunate timing for where we were in the process, but.
I actually, to the contrary, I would tell you, I feel as if we're getting something of a blank canvas here, but a much better canvas to work from. I really don't think that it takes away from what we're looking to do at all. And I think that safety-wise, especially for pedestrians who have been stepping through potholes or puddles or whatever, there's no detriment. I was never looking, in terms of the proposal that I had, to rely on funding from any other organization. I was able to speak with Metroplex about what they're looking to do. And as was requested by the board in terms of who's paying for what, that became quite clear in my meeting with Metroplex and will be reflected at the next meeting.
And I would agree that paving needs work no matter what.
So Mr. Nicky, so I'm clear, the area along the buildings, when they say stamped asphalt, is that going to be a different color? Or
It is.
It is.
It's going to be the same color as the sidewalk.
Okay, so it's that terracotta color, and then the regular asphalt butts up to it. So parking for you, when your barriers, your temporary barriers do disappear, that will be the delineation, correct?
It will, but the temporary barriers, per what we discussed either a meeting or two ago, will be left 8 feet off the building for the winter and the duration of until such a time that this board either approves or denies what our proposal is.
Okay.
All right.
So they come back, and then you may.
All right. So the only other question I have then is timing. 3 weeks out, do we need to have a resolution for the next meeting calling for the public hearing, or are we going to wait a while? We can wait. All right, Mr. Nicky, you also need to update your little paragraph, letter, whatever you want to call it, regarding your exterior seating detail. I know you've added on to that, but when we go to a public hearing, we have to have it cleaned up. I think there's a discrepancy in the number of parking spots stated in there. You added in, just clean it up. You state there'd be no live music, but there would be, I think what we talked about last time, there's no music, whether it's live or, piped in. It's going to be quiet, no TVs outside. So I think that's important for the public hearing that's up to date, okay?
Sure.
Okay.
And when will the public hearing be?
Well, that's what I was just asking about. So we're not ready to call for it. It sounds like we need one more iteration.
Well, you don't need a resolution to call for a public hearing.
Okay.
I mean, if you guys are comfortable, you could call for the public hearing at the next meeting. I
Well,
don't think it's ready for, I thought you were saying
Well,
resolution.
yeah, well, we have
resolution
enough,
for
well, we have enough
planning board.
information in time to have the public hearing next meeting. I guess that's a question for Mr. Nicky.
When is that public hearing date?
Well, we don't have a date. We're talking about setting a date right now. So
Oh, I see.
if we
Well, what I
had
would
it,
tell
if
you-
we had it in 3 weeks, could you get all your information in within a couple of weeks?
I plan to have everything to you this week by the end of this week. I should have it by Wednesday, but I'd like to give myself until Friday as I'm not in control apparently of anybody else's schedule but my own.
Be okay to have a public hearing.
For the notice, you don't, just basically the notice, you don't need to have that information for the notice anyway, right?
No, the notice will have kind of like the site plan on the back.
So you will need it then.
Well, is the site, I mean, the site, I think it's okay. It's not going to change that much, right?
Well, again, if he would get in the update, it would be better product for the public hearing.
Mhm.
Okay.
But I mean, conceptually, it's not going to change. If we feel like we're just down to a couple of details, I think it's okay to call
Yeah.
for a public hearing. If we think that there's still some outstanding issues that we want to address.
No, I mean, public hearing is just about, not just about, it's important, but we might get some feedback, that we need to incorporate in, in our approval process or in our recommendation to the town board. So I'm okay,
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
DiArpino is, and Mr. Nicky to go ahead with the public hearing.
I'm good with it.
Okay, so
All
we'll
right.
schedule the public hearing for October 24th.
All right, Mr. Nicky, so we'll have the public hearing and
Yep.
that's, planning board level, and we'll work on our recommendation to town board. The town board will also be updating the special use permit, so they'll also have a public hearing someday.
Okay, the only other question that I have, and I actually emailed it over a short while ago, while the last person was presenting. We originally were approved with a special use permit based on specific hours of operation. If we wanted to include an amendment to what those hours would be, do we do that through the planning board level or at the town board meeting?
Through the planning board. We need to understand that in order to make a recommendation.
Yep. And we don't have any intention of doing it right now, but we're getting, we have people who want to show up at 3:30 after school's out, teachers, things of that sort. So we want to, know how to do that when that comes to
It's
it.
an opportunity to review the town approval, and if there's anything that you feel needs to be upgraded, now's the time to talk about it.
Got it.
At the planning board level.
All right, we'll have everything to you this week for sure.
I have one little perspective on the music and such. If the owner agrees not to provide it, does that include stopping the customers from coming in and providing their own? Because that can be just as annoying with the equipment available.
I don't see that as something that would come to be. I don't foresee a customer bringing their own musical equipment to play music while they dine.
I've seen it happen elsewhere, so.
Well, okay. I would tell you that I haven't. This is the business that I'm in. Maybe somebody plays music on their phone or talks on speakerphone, but I've never, they would need a power supply. But I've never seen anyone bring sound equipment into a restaurant to play their own music, unless of course they've rented it for a wedding or event like that, but that's not our operation.
And if that were to occur, you or your staff would politely tell them it's not allowed. So,
Of course.
of course.
Well, my concern is, would we need to specify that somehow?
I wouldn't
Oh.
think
I
so.
think we said no music, so I think that covers it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
All right. Anything else, Mr. Nicky?
I'm done. Thank you.
Dave? Okay,
All set.
we're all set? All right, thank you. And we'll have the public hearing at the next meeting.
Thank you.
All right, let's see, all right, Aqueduct, 2837 Aqueduct Road, that's River's Ledge. We have the applicant online tonight.
So Chuck just emailed me that he's unable to attend tonight. He will make the next meeting. The only updated things in your packet were the roof plan. They can bring up, I didn't know, Clark, if you wanted to say anything about the roof plan.
I
It
think
looks-
if he's not going to be here tonight, why don't we just pull up the roof plan to see if
Yeah.
there's any comments from the board so that we can give them that feedback, all right?
Yeah, so, I mean, so I'll
Just use your microphone.
Yeah, where's the roof plan show with the actual, cooling units are?
So, oh, well, maybe David, I think they're like here, like, right? They're here, they're all along, like, this is an example of one.
Yeah, is that like a typical one sticking up and then?
No, I think there's a series of these small units that are going to be tucked behind this parapet,
Yeah,
and they've basically created a well,
oh well.
with
So
bathrooms
yeah,
down
all the drains, all that I see, but
right?
the units are actually missing in this view, right?
Correct.
Yeah. Okay, so we have no idea of the height of the units from this.
Yeah. And that's not to say that They could be individual units on pads up here. They could be
Down below.
split units that are in a closet inside that just have a vent that has to go up. It's hard to tell.
Right, but
without
there was
knowing.
nothing in the write-up that indicated where the units are. Which was-
No, and then the corresponding next drawing that shows the actual plan doesn't indicate where they are either.
Yeah, I just found that puzzling that.
All right, so that's a good catch, and we'll ask Mr. Funday or his engineers give us some more details about what the plan is there, right?
We didn't miss it, right? It's not-
No, it's not there. Add,
No,
so add
there-
HVAC units.
this is a model that's not,
Yeah.
it's a massing model. It's not a working document, I would say.
Yeah, because the other thing's kind of missing is really the, how high is this compared, the elevations from the decking where the units would be that we don't know the height of to the highest point. Are they truly,
Right, but we have to assume that the dimensions on the other pages and the applicant so far are still active, right? The 41, whatever.
yeah, whatever.
Yeah,
the,
they have to keep themselves under 41. That's all they have.
But I'm-
Yeah.
but what I'm-
Page.
Yeah, what I'm talking about is just, the distance between the decking where the drains are to the highest elevation, the 41 feet or whatever. What is that dimension? And then, like you mentioned, what is the height of any equipment that's going to go up there? Is it going to be, within that dimension so it's not visible,
Yeah.
which was our goal?
I'm a little nervous as to why they didn't show it.
All right,
Okay, so we'll ask them to add the HVAC units to the roof plan and add dimensions.
add dimensions. And I think it's a work in progress, and that's kind of where we're at, right? But it appears to be pretty good, and if it truly hides everything, I think that's what we're looking for, right, Dave?
Yep.
I mean,
It's a pretty tall building, so I think you're going to be hard pressed unless they have large. They don't have large units because there's so many units.
Yep.
It's just we should really get a summary of what their proposed mechanical package would be. That would probably answer
Yep.
a lot of questions.
And then the only other thing I had in my notes, and I know we're probably not there yet, but if our approval is going to be for this building and for the 3,000 square foot outbuilding, we need some information on that outbuilding. We really haven't seen anything about that. So whether if they're going to phase that in, and they're not looking for approval at this time for the 3,000 square foot building, I guess that's fine also, but just need to understand what they're doing there. What's the thoughts on that building? What's the design going to be like, et cetera, right? And if they're not ready, they're just working on this one, that's a different phase, that's okay too, right?
Yeah, I know they had said to me, because I asked them about that sometimes, that they're working on a possible tenant. You could conceptually approve the commercial building with more information about it, obviously, and then just do a tenant change when they finally have a tenant, or potentially they'll get a tenant, here quickly, and then we
Right.
can start talking about it.
Yep, and we can approve it if they provide us some details of what it's going to look like, et cetera, right?
You're talking about a single tenant for the entire building?
Yes, I think originally they were talking about the coffee shop being in the building, but I think now they're talking about potentially like a coffee shop restaurant being the outbuilding, and then some other things being in the building. I can't remember what he said.
Yep. Who's our TDE on this project?
Weston and Sampson.
Weston and Sampson, okay.
They had very limited comments on the plans.
Good.
Yeah, the main issue is still these,
All right,
the cooling units and the.
so we'll pass that information on to the project manager. And any further questions or discussion on this? Nope. Okay, thank you. All right, let's see, that brings us to 2239 Van Antwerp Road. That's a two-lot minor subdivision. We have representatives here tonight for that application. Good evening.
Hi. My name is Pat Rose. I'm with Van Gilder Associates. I'm here tonight on behalf of Elizabeth and Joanne Ryan to answer any questions you may have for the two-lot subdivision on 2239 Van Antwerp Road. To recap, these are conforming lots and will include public water and sewer. The 2.08 acre property will be subdivided into a 0.56 acre and a 1.53 acre lot. The items from the last meeting that were added to the map include drainage. The direction of flow is to the rear of the property. And there's a note 13 on the plan that alludes to that. Number two, the fence and signs were added to define the wetland buffer. And number three, the trees were noted on the plan as well. over 25 inches in diameter, or 25 and more.
Okay, thanks. And Mr. Laflamme agreed to take the lead on this one.
Sure.
So I'll turn it over to you and get started.
Thanks. Just, it looks like it's pretty straightforward. The delineation of where the wetlands are and the distance setbacks that we have, the additional 25 feet, all seem pretty satisfied and the flow satisfied. The tree impact, is it like 5 or 6 trees that are beyond 25?
Yeah, it's about that. Let's see here.
I think I'm looking at the green, like trying to get to it, but
Yeah, it's
you highlighted, yeah, the green are the keepers and remove are the X's.
right.
Well, that was actually my highlight. My suggestion would be the ones on the edges that the applicant try and save during construction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 trees probably wouldn't make it. But there's some on the edges that look like they're in the grading, and my suggestion would be to try and limit the grading to save those trees.
So to confirm, is that something that can be done? Is that? is
Well,
this as low
the
as
the
recommendation?
trees are going to be impacted in some manner because of the amount of work that's going on around there. Like the ones on the end of the driveway are pretty close to the edge there, so they may be, impacted slightly. You may not damage the tree, but you might get into the roots, and it's just the nature of what it is. Certainly, every effort will be made to protect as many trees as possible on the site.
So this is generally something that can be adhered to with the exception of those immediately next to the driveway.
I would say so, yeah. Yeah, as shown on there.
So our code says that if you designate them as trees to be preserved and they do get damaged from the roots, the driveways or whatever, I think you end up having to pay $500 for the ones that you can't keep. That's, I believe, what our code says. We can't keep them.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify. I'm glad you brought that up because I thought that was their notes.
No, the other note that I had in there was the engineering department was looking at this, and I was looking at it too. And this house is a bit taller than the other 2 houses, and I know we've gotten into trouble on that before. So you're 6 feet of fill on the back and 4 to 6 feet of fill on that lower side. So the question was if you could lower the foundation by like a foot and reduce some of that fill, it would probably also help you save some of the trees.
That's fine. We understand that, they typically set the house about 1.5 feet above the crown of the road just to maintain positive drainage for the driveway and that kind of thing. But it could be lowered to achieve that as well. So just as long as we can maintain the positive drainage when we lower the house.
Yeah, the engineering department noted that, but if you can lower it a little bit, it would be better. We've had a couple times that when the new homes go in and they're quite a bit higher than the existing homes, it really changes the fabric of that community because you'll have old homes, so all built at the same level, and then a new home like on a hill getting positive drainage, but looking totally different than all of the other. And we've had people come here and say, why did you approve it like that? And it's mostly because the foundation is higher than the other ones. I think that happens. So as low as you can go, the better.
Understood.
I'm guessing the adjacent homes on this side of Antwerp do not have positive drainage on the driveway.
Yeah, I don't.
They appear to be relatively flat as I drive by and take a look. It's all kind of flat.
On which
it
side?
strikes me.
The houses that are neighboring this lot?
Yeah, like so the existing homes is
doesn't
at
look like it.
100.05, and then he's got some spot grades on the road that are like 100.05, 100.06. So it may be a slight pitch down to the existing home, which is at 100. But the existing home's at 100, and this one's at 102.3. I mean, even if you just brought this one down to like 101.5.
Yeah. Something like that would
Yeah.
might not be.
Mhm.
There's only 2 houses next to them. But
Yeah, and I don't know what
it's-
the other one is because I don't know if you guys remember for a little while we were actually even having you do the GFs of the adjacent homes so that the new home didn't get the infill homes can be disruptive. So that you didn't get so much higher than the existing homes.
Well, the home immediately adjacent that's being subdivided off looks like a sort of split level. The garage is below the first floor.
Mm.
So that must be how they achieve,
May not have a basement either.
you know.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that one, but that one isn't very impacted by the fill. There's really almost hardly any fill going towards the existing home. It's actually the one that says lands now formerly of Smith, that is going to have 4 to 6 feet of fill all along its edge there.
So it sounds like it's doable to tighten it up a little bit and try to lower it, right?
Absolutely. We'll do our
Well,
best to do that.
I
So would
like-
you like us to note on the plan 101.5?
Yeah, so do
Yeah, and then see if that adjusts the grading a little bit so it doesn't have to be so wide.
Okay.
I have a concern with the 2 trees, though, Laura, that you have marked near the driveway. I mean, a lot of homeowners, I don't know what kind of trees those are, whether they're pine or what they are. But a lot of times, people don't like trees that close because you can't park your car in your driveway or leave your top down or whatever,
You back into it when you're
Yeah.
coming
Yeah,
out
I
of the
know.
garage late for
I
work.
mean, I just know this because I just going through with some friends right now about taking trees down because they're a nuisance, So do we know what kind of trees those are? and whether-
Nuisance.
Well, where they're located. We love trees, don't take it the wrong way.
It can be.
But, we sometimes we run into trouble where we so restrictive on trees that then when they go to build the home,
I know.
we have different issues.
The reason that those are highlighted is because it's a proposed driveway, and there's a possibility that when the true home plan comes in, that they may be able to scooch them a little bit. But I agree, if you were to put the driveway exactly here, you'd probably have to take those 2 trees.
Right. That's,
I think you can definitely preserve those ones on the bottom towards Lands of Smith, and then potentially the ones that are right on the edges of the grading. But yeah, the 2 that are sort of under the do not clear area right here are really iffy. But the reason I highlighted them is there's a potential during building permit process
well,
that you might.
let's say that then versus, saying that if it doesn't work out, maybe they could plant a couple other trees versus, $500 for each tree when we know there might be a problem because we don't know what exactly is going to be built there, right? Whether it's going to have a side load garage or
Right.
we don't know,
I mean, the intent is to have a side load garage. If you do a front load garage, you don't really have much driveway. There's not a lot of room for parking. So the side load garage would really be the preferred layout, just to give you a little room to get some cars off the street and that kind of thing, which I don't think we want parked out there.
On that street.
So it would make more sense to do a side load.
Okay.
So by that, you would want to remove those 2 from your preserved trees, and then really the ones you're marking are the remaining ones that are green.
right?
Yeah,
And I'm
that's fine.
saying, I mean, they could try to save them, just saying it may be difficult
Mm-hmm.
and it may be undesirable for the homeowner of that location. That's all I'm
A
saying.
little bit of a leeway there would be
Appreciated.
appreciated for sure.
I'm going to highlight the most, but I understand.
I understand. Yep, just those 2 are the only ones
I like that.
All right?
Some homeowners don't.
And again, I love trees. I'm not trying to be anti-tree. It's just that those 2, we sometimes we get into problems by trying to preserve them at locations which cause problems down the road. Does that sound reasonable?
Yeah.
And I agree with the rest of them.
Is it going to be difficult, Laura, to create a swale if we're preserving these trees along the boundary with Smith?
So that was what my hope was. If you lower the foundation, you might be able to scooch that swale in a little and save those trees. I think that these trees are really quite magnificent. We're not talking about little tiny trees. We're talking about really beautiful old oak trees that have been there for a long time.
Yeah.
And the tree council walked the site and they were amazed by how beautiful those trees were. It's not an unreasonable ask to scooch that swale out and keep some of those trees. It's a beautiful border between the existing home, which is very wooded. And I think you should be very careful and protect as many of them as possible.
Okay?
So are you going to highlight those trees for us?
Yeah, I can send you the highlighted map with the 2 that were noted removed.
Okay? All
I
right.
would not want to mandate the side load driveway though.
We don't, we don't
We're
mandate
not-
that.
yeah.
No,
And
no, but
some people really hate them.
yeah, but it would be, in this instance, I think it would be advantageous, but again, that's ultimately up to the person who's purchasing the house or
Going to
building it,
build, yep.
for sure.
All right. And how do we stand on, if we get the plan updated, there's no concerns with lowering the elevation and blending in the grading? Are we all set for tentative resolution here also?
I think so.
We'd like to move forward with
Yep,
it.
yep.
Absolutely.
So if everybody else is okay, then we'll have tentative resolution. Laura will send you this map and you can update your plans. And obviously you can let us know if there's any concerns
Okay.
once you take a harder look at it. If there's no concerns, we'll move forward at the next meeting, which is October 24th.
We'll get the paperwork in.
Not to delay the meeting, but this design actually shows signs to delineate wetlands. Is that just for construction period, or is that something that the applicant's actually doing on their own?
I believe they're going to be permanent signs on the fence, from what I understand.
On the applicant's fence?
The
Or
split
the
rail fence.
split fence there, it's going to
On
be
the
there?
split.
It'll be on the split rail fence.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
I
okay.
think it's a
Just
good
so it's
idea.
it is a good idea.
Little, just so it's always there, so
Yeah.
people have an idea what it's for. Otherwise, it's just a couple of pieces of fence.
Yeah.
The first homeowner might get it. You could sell the house, and
We know what happens down the road, yeah?
Yeah.
yes, we do.
Yep, nope, thank you, we appreciate that.
Thank you.
And we'll have a resolution next meeting.
Thank you very much.
All right, have a good night.
Good night.
Okay, let's see, where we at? 2538 River Road, and that's Kelt's Farm. And I know we have the applicant online, and this is regarding the signage tonight. So I don't know if Joel wants to kick it off, or where the project leads,
think we have a.
which we have a couple for Kelt's Farm.
Right?
No, that's just where he's calling from. I think Joel was online earlier. I saw his face there.
If he stepped away, it may be because he was taking care of a little one.
Yeah.
We talked about this during subdivision plan. The subdivision sign went up without a building permit. It probably wouldn't stay forever as this sort of real estate sign, but in discussions with the applicant and, taking a look at it, it's kind of cool because the applicant is working in beams into his homes, and the subdivision sign is built out of beams. And so they felt like they would like to keep it as a subdivision sign. The size of it is bigger than the subdivision sign allows. It is in the median, which I was double checking with Ray. But if it looks okay, it would need planning board approval for the sort of, size and all of that, and then town board approval because it's in the right of way. But it's just preliminary discussions. I think you would expect to see the beam stay and the little garden plot underneath it. And then a different sign in the middle once it became a true subdivision sign.
Okay.
Do we measure the whole structure or just the actual sign?
We just measured the sign on that one.
And it's still considerably larger than it should be?
Yeah, I mean, it's in your pack. It's supposed to be,
It's 24 square
24 square
feet versus
feet.
16, which is allowed.
yeah, right.
So in the order of operations, does the town board need to approve the location first?
So it's interesting. We enacted a subdivision code, but we've never subdivision sign code, but we've never used it before.
Okay.
But essentially, the planning board has to approve the size and the location of the sign, but you obviously can't approve the location without town board approval. So I think it wouldn't make sense to send it to town board if you didn't like it, but they would be the ultimate authority. It's sort of like a chicken and an egg. Like, you approve the size and the location, but they have to say okay to the right of way. But if you're not going to approve the size of the location, we don't even need to send it to the town board. I mean, it's going to be kind of a ping pong back and forth, I guess.
I'm okay with it in the right of way because I think it looks a little more symmetrical than putting it on one of the sides.
Mm-hmm. I agree with that.
And
How long do
in-
they get to keep it at that? When does it transition over into the subdivision? I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
no, that's.
When does it, because I mean, it does look large.
Your
in this
microphone,
picture.
please.
Oh, sorry. It does look large in this picture, but when will it, I don't know, that's probably not a good.
Probably when the last property sold.
Then there's no way to know that.
There isn't any way to know it. It does typically take a couple years.
Okay.
So everybody hit actually the kind of notes I had. So one of the thoughts I had was, can we have if we all like the location, say we're okay with the location and move it on to the town board. This sign is clearly for sales. It's not going to be the subdivision sign. And I don't see any reason why the applicant can't submit a sign that may be compliant with the 16 square foot, since this one's got a lot of information on it. Is that a path that we could take?
Oh, you mean ask him?
Yeah.
Yeah, in the future to submit it, but hang. So I mean, yes,
I
it may look a little weird with the borders, so it'd probably be useful to see a 16 square foot sign and a 24 foot square.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we should do that.
But the 16 square foot sign, not a real estate sign, but a.
No, yeah, the whatever,
Yeah,
yeah,
subdivision sign, yeah.
whatever he's
Yeah.
proposing, because if you look at this sign, Kelt's Farm is a very small portion of the sign, whereas the 16 square foot, I think that's what's going to say is Kelt's Farm, I would
Yeah.
assume,
So,
right?
okay.
So it may be adequate at 16 square foot. So if we could get the proposal, what the final sign would look at, we could do like maybe,
There's gonna be a lot more space.
I'll give 2 years for this sign.
Yeah.
And then when it's done, assuming the town board approves the location or the easement that's required, because it's in the right of way, and then this side would come down and then 16 square foot one go up.
Mhm.
And it would be up to Joel, the applicant, to tell us that he can do that within 16. If he says, no, I need 18, well, then we'll talk about it, you know?
Yeah, and then I think that gives him the benefit of, without some kind of approval, he can't have this sign up as a real estate sign either. So, I mean, it's sort of an approval of the real estate
Yeah,
sign
so
for
it-
2 years and then a subdivision
Yeah.
sign for whatever.
So get back, Joel, are you still on the line, Joel? He's muted there. I don't know if he's under Caitlin's. All right. All right, so let's give him that feedback if he's not
Okay.
available. And then if he submits what it would look like or what his thoughts were, or he states that he can keep it within the 16 square foot, then we'll just move it on to the
Right.
town board with a time limit on this sign, right?
A timeline on the real estate and then approval of the
Okay.
final.
That's
So we
okay,
want to
Patrick?
see that 16-foot
Yeah.
sign
You
before
guys-
we pass the
Yeah,
location
definitely.
on to the town
Yeah.
board?
I would say so.
I think it'll change our location agreement,
Oh, you mean?
I think so.
because why wait, right?
Okay, yeah, we could do that. You're right.
We're okay with the location, it's just the
Yeah.
sizing, then.
Yeah, and we could have a condition that he still has to come back for the final sign, you know, right?
Okay, I will put it on my next agenda meeting for town board.
Yeah, either way, you know. And then we can work through the, you know, if he requires a bigger sign, that's our authority to do that, right? The town board is just the location.
Yeah, we're size and
So
And
I don't
location.
mean to take your time, I learned that from Chris just now, but I did actually wake up in the middle of the night, one night, and think about this. The road for the fire trucks, the place we had delineated, when is that getting built?
when it's built.
It's built already?
Yeah,
So they have access to that today?
Yeah. mhm.
Okay,
Yeah.
good, that's all, good, then I
Yeah.
can sleep better at night.
You can sleep better at night.
Good point.
Okay, so we'll provide that
It's like
feedback.
yeah, they made the bike path 10 or 12 feet wide there and
Yeah,
it was
I
built.
thought to ask when I saw them finally change it to go to the final configuration.
Yeah, it's
like
there.
that.
And I think it has a bollard even got a pin. It's pretty done.
Want to make sure, so there's direct fire access from River Road. Without
There's
having to-
direct fire access from Windsor Drive and from River Road. Yeah. mhm.
Okay, all right, we'll get that feedback and we can go forward with the town approval. Okay, thank you, everybody. Let's see, we'll keep it moving here. Let's see, Momentive, 2750 Balltown Road, site plan application for your monument sign. Have Mr. McQueenie and sign representative, I assume? Yeah. So I guess you can tell the board what you got here. We all have copies of everything, of course, so.
Okay. Good evening. So, hey, so what I'm humbly looking for is we're planning, I'm going to just talk about our signage, our proposed signage. What I'm hoping is that we get approval for the monument sign that's going to be located at the entrance of the site. The signs that we're going to be putting on the building, the facade signs, are, both of those are, we'd be requesting two variances. One for the fact that we have two signs, and from what I understand, the code allows for one sign per facade. And the other variance is that the Momentive sign is nearly twice the size of the 50 square foot allowance that the code allows. So, and then I would also be looking for is just open and candid advice and recommendations on how to proceed with the facade signs, recognizing that they are going to require variances. So, from what I understand, this sign it meets the code. It's very similar. I don't like copying and pasting things unless it works well. It's very similar to what the former tenant had. We're putting it in the same location. We use the same floodlights to illuminate the lamp. It's not on a timer. It's It's a light sensor that
Yep.
turns the lights on in the morning or I'm sorry, in the evening and turns them off at night. We've engaged with Pat and his team from Saxon Signs to construct and install the sign. If there's any specific technical questions regarding the material of construction, Pat can answer those. I'm not the right person to answer them. The fact that I think the building permit that we submitted is for all the signs. I don't know if we need to do two.
No,
separate
let's,
signs or-
maybe we should just focus on this one first,
Okay.
along Balltown Road, and then we'll talk about the others. It's in the same location, it meets the requirements, using current lighting. The only question I had was looking at it, was there any problems with the, blocking, pulling out historically? Is it okay where it's at? And, that was the only question I had personally.
It's actually pretty far back from the road. There's a lot of openness right there.
We did look at that too. I had myself and some of my colleagues walked up there many times. just
Yep,
to-
especially with the
for a
traffic
bunch of
concerns,
reasons,
right?
to
So,
see,
beautiful.
when we're pulling out, do we have space? And my opinion is that there's ample
So,
space to pull up and have clear visibility.
thank you. So is the board okay with that sign? I guess that's a question.
Yeah. So my recommendation is to pull that sign out from the package and it can just have a building
Yeah, you
permit
can go
issued
ahead
to
with
it.
that sign.
Mhm.
All right.
Okay.
And then the other signs, the next question I had, I guess was for Laura. Do we have waiver capability on these signs, or does it have to go to ZBA?
Claire, can I research that extensively? And we do not have waiver capability.
do not have
It has
waiver.
to go to the zoning board.
Okay, so we have to make a recommendation to the zoning board on the other signage. We're looking at it, just so, my personal view is that it's pretty far off the road. It isn't like, it's in anybody's face, or I don't see any impact on the residential character, what residences there are on Balltown Road. It seems to be pretty far off.
It's 1,000 feet from the entrance to the site. It's 800 feet if I drew a line perpendicular from
Right.
Balltown to that. And we looked, I don't know if I should just shut up or if I can.
No, I mean, bottom line is I'm okay with it, is
Yeah,
where I was
okay,
heading.
We just have to make a recommendation
Yeah.
to the ZBA.
Okay,
right?
So we'll have to make a recommendation, and if anybody's concerned, now's the time to talk about it, so we can make the recommendation at the next meeting. But based on the distance, the size of the building, I don't have a problem with it.
I'm not sure if it looks cool as a recommendation factor to the ZBA. What's the significance of the colors on the V?
I'm sorry, Mr. Khan.
The significance of the colors on the V?
I'm hard of hearing.
Okay, the colors on the V mean
It's
anything?
the momentum, it's the V.
No.
Like the red
I
and
know
the
it's
orange
V, I know it's the
colors.
V in momentum, but
Yeah, the orange and the red.
Yeah, it does. Do the colors on the V mean anything?
yeah. Well, what does the V mean?
The V, so
The
the
V
V
mean-
represents our vision.
Mhm.
The V represents our vision and not in any order of priority, our financial goals, our sustainability initiatives. I'm reading this. The solutions that we bring to our markets and our customers, the safety and well-being of our employees, and the values that we want our employees to embrace. So the V stands for, it represents the vision. Every year we put together a 1-year vision and a 5-year vision for all aspects of our business. And, but that's the short answer for what it represents.
Okay, that's good. So I guess we have to include that to the ZBA because for a sign that, communicates vision, it needs to be seen, all right?
I was going to ask this question prior to the explanation, although it's even more fitting. Is the V big enough? Like, is this going to satisfy what you need is to be seen from the street before we go and, ask for a variance?
Yeah,
Or make a recommendation?
Good question. And I'm just being very transparent. From the street, can you see it? Yes. When you're driving, it's not an advertisement. When you're driving on Balltown Road, you're looking ahead. And given the trees that we have in front and the gate that we have in front and some of those pillars, when you drive by that site, you might recognize this moment. I'd recognize this momentum. If you knew it was momentum, you would recognize it but you drive by it in a second.
Yeah.
It's primarily for, hey, we bought a new property. We want to brand it so our employees, our current customers and any future customers or visitors, when they drive into the site, okay, one, they know they're at the right place. Two, we see a nice, well-branded building, but from the street view, you go right by it. The monument out in front, and folks, GPS systems will get them into that driveway. Once you're there, that's where it pops and it looks really nice. And employees will be proud of it. We'll be proud of it. Show our brand on that facade. It is, we've from a size perspective, we wouldn't want to make it bigger. We've looked at it. We've had our senior leadership team review it. We showed it to our board of directors. Everyone was really happy with it. No one said make it bigger.
Good.
Making it smaller would be,
Okay.
making the momentum smaller would be.
Well, it sounds like this board is okay with making a recommendation to the zoning board. Feels, I just got to be creative here. Can we make a recommendation tonight?
I do have a question.
But it won't matter with the timeline,
Oh,
but we
it's too,
could.
no, I'm saying if it's too late for the next zoning board of appeals meeting, just to help out the applicant. It's too late.
Yeah, they would have to go on to the
All
November
right, then
meeting.
there's no, then we'll just do it the next
November
meeting then.
19th one,
Right,
Mhm.
go ahead,
we need to go to.
Is the configuration of the building such that it's this facade that, angles in and comes up? That's considered one facade? Even though the configuration of the building, the reason I bring it up is that we've had other buildings that are, either a corner faces two areas, they get two facade signs because they have technically two facades, correct?
I mean, you could probably argue if you wanted to that potentially that's a facade, but the V and the momentum are on the same facade.
Because they're on that angle, that's considered the front.
Yeah, I would
Okay,
say
all right.
so.
I know the building department looked at it probably
Yeah.
extensively, correct?
But they would still have to go because of the square footage.
Oh, true, but
Yeah.
I mean, it's just one less.
Yeah,
If
lowering
there was a
variance.
technicality that we could clarify here now, it may make the lift
Yep.
a little easier.
Yeah,
And I agree. I think the
Manager
signs.
asked
I think the signs look great. They're very tastefully done, and
Yeah.
I was
they
asked
blend
that
onto the
question. I
building well.
assumed it was, I interpreted the code as it's the front, whatever angle has it. It's one side, one facade.
Yeah, you might be able to argue the one corner that's really sort of facing. But the another thing to note is that the SI group had a very similar package. The approvals for the SI group were very weird though, which is why we're just gonna make momentum clean. But the SI group had SI group over here, and then it had a band of colors up at the top. So it is very similar to what was there, even though what was there didn't quite, the band of colors wasn't considered like a sign, but there even was something on this pillar. So it's not like it's something particularly new. It's just something that would have to go through the approvals.
I mean, it's a very tasteful sign set, and I think the biggest argument is the fact that it is 1,000 feet away from the road.
Yeah.
So,
From the entrance,
yeah, from the entrance, yeah.
perpendicular to the road is like 800 square.
Yep. Okay. All right. So you'll pull out the one sign so you can go forward with the one on Balltown Road. And we'll make a recommendation at our next meeting to the zoning board of appeals for the area variance for the other signage on the building. And it looks like, at least with the board that we have present tonight, would be a positive recommendation. So
Thank you for your time,
all right.
as always.
And thank you. Thank you for your time tonight also. And everybody else in the audience, we know it's a long agenda tonight, so thank you.
We will put you on first. I promise.
Oh,
Well, we can't change the public hearing.
You gotta come first, right? You still do it first come.
Yeah, it's first come, first.
We do it first come, first serve, but the problem is when you come late and then things don't cycle off,
Yeah.
then you're here for like 2 hours every single meeting. which
Before we were
doesn't really
last,
seem
we're
fair.
working our way up.
You're working your way up.
Thank you again.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yep.
Take care.
All right. And let's see. 2635 Balltown Road, Trinity Baptist Church. And I know we have Mr. Noyes here. And quite a bit of information in the packet. You want to bring us up to date?
Well, I believe you all, if you have everything, I think I dropped the last few things off to Clark last week, but you should have the Army Corps of Engineer letter. I can't remember all that I dropped off.
Yep, the archaeological
Archaeological, yeah,
results. Yep. But no further.
and also the remediation map for the reduction the Army Corps allowed.
All right. And the permit is good till 2026, I believe, somewhere embedded in there.
We have, yeah, there's a,
And we got the state response
one
regarding,
that need, yeah, once the project is completed.
that's pretty, so those were the open items that we've had. Let's see what else you got, Laura, in your agenda packet. There's a few things, I think, right? So there's some things that aren't checked off. I'm just looking at the agenda packet, which was available online. I don't know if you had an opportunity to take a look at it. Just has the notes where we stand. So the planning board discussed the possible need for the grading plan and an engineered review. Is that something?
So that was something that we discussed again. I can have the engineering department look at that. Because I think the question was, and Clark can jump in here, that there's a berm, but it doesn't like have grading lines on how the berm's being made, I think was where we were going with that.
The berm by the,
By the
Pavilion?
JCC, yeah. So that the water doesn't go onto the adjacent property. Yeah. I think that was a Patrick comment. You remember that, Patrick?
That's right.
I remember expressing some concern about the buffer between on the northern
Houses.
property line. The berm is kind of new to me.
Oh, it is? Oh,
I don't
okay.
recall that being on the plan that we saw back in March.
Oh, it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think we weren't exactly sure how it was being graded. So maybe
Oh.
there's like one new thing that says grade to 361 and then the berm is at 363. And that's to keep the water from going off of the property. But it's, I'll send it to the engineering part. It may need a little bit more than that. I'll let them decide on that one.
Yeah, well, that is a general comment that I did want to make. So I guess we're kind of zeroing in on. I know. Sorry. We have dotted lines for current topography contours, but I do not see many new proposed topography contours.
well, we're not changing the topography.
Well, in general, the elevation is not changing, but it's my understanding you're doing a lot of tree removal and stumping and then filling.
Well, it's just wherever the stumps come out, we just fill the holes in. There's no regrading or changing of the grades that exist.
Okay.
We're not flattening it out to make a field of any kind, soccer field or anything like that. It's just whatever the grade is, it is.
Beautiful.
We're just using it for open area
That's great.
for kids to play in.
Yeah. So then to Laura's point, you have existing contours that intersect with the 363-foot berm, and for just consistency and cleanliness, technically speaking, those existing contours there will be a small proposed contour that sort of bleeds into the 363-foot berm. You can't go from 360 feet to 363 feet without a small bit of contouring. So
That's what the note was getting at. I
that's
think
what you were-
mostly in the area of the berm, because we know that there's grading that's there.
But the proposed pavilion and the proposed grading around that is phase 2, as I understand it, as well as the crusher run to access that pavilion. Is the berm phase 1?
If it needs to be. Phase 1 is just clearing the trees and getting grass established.
Mm.
And then once that's done, then the pavilion would go in. Once we get the trees out of there and see what we've got exactly, it's hard to tell the forest from the trees right now with everything there. There's ribbons from the surveyors, marking out the wetlands, et cetera, but I walked it with the tree committee. A couple of you were there, and it's hard to tell where things end. I'm actually going to have the surveyor come back. I want him to remark the inside of that 25-foot buffer. It's not really clear to me. So
How are we marking that permanently?
there's supposed to be a fence.
It's put real.
Okay. We should probably have that denoted on one of our site plans. There were some notes from the tree council as well. It sounds like there are some beautiful white pines, some tall white pines,
Yeah,
and
there
there's
are
one
up
in the
around where the
recre.
pavilion is. I think there's 3 large oak. And then back in the open area, there are, well, there's probably about maybe 7 or 8 large white pine. Half of them are probably within that 25-foot buffer zone. So there's probably 4 of them, 3 or 4, that are within the field. But they're easily set apart from the other. Those trees are huge.
Hmm.
Most of the trees that are back there are probably 10, 12 inches in diameter at the most. Most of them are probably smaller than that. And there's a large area that's just bushes, scrub bushes. But the pine trees are going to stay. The oak trees are going to stay.
Wonderful.
But they're easily, they don't need to be marked. They're pretty obvious. Some
Yeah,
of the
that
pine
was
trees are
the-
probably 24 inches in diameter.
Great.
We're going to trim up the branches because some of the lower branches are all dead, but the trees will remain.
Well, that will be really nice when you've got everything else, all the scrub and smaller
Yeah,
trees
the
cleared
grass
out.
and-
It'll
yeah.
really accentuate those beautiful
Yep.
old growth.
Yeah, the tree council did a long walk and they were okay with the smaller trees being cleared out if the big white pines could stay. And Larry said that that shouldn't be a problem. So I think that would just be a note on the resolution to keep the pine trees. They are really obvious.
We also talked about, and I did receive a list of approved trees.
The plant.
I did not get any information as far as how many. And I did get we did indicate, it doesn't show on this map because that doesn't show the whole property, but we talked about it as you're looking at Balltown Road towards the church on the left-hand side, there's a residence there, to put trees along there. We don't want to fill in that front lawn because we use that also.
Right.
But that would be an area that we could replant some trees. But again, other than the list of acceptable trees, I don't have any indication as far as how many the tree council wanted. So
Okay, I can look at my notes on that. I don't think it was like extensive. My memory is like 8 to 12 or something like that.
I don't even remember.
But I would say that just to button that item up, I can see if I can get you a number if I have one. But you can even just print out an aerial of the church and just mark on the aerial and in that area like 10 trees to be planted here. I think that's okay. You wouldn't need your engineer to do that, but just so that it's captured on your plans. Yeah.
But the plan is going to require updating based on Mr. McPartland's comment.
On the grading,
Yeah.
I do think you need your engineer to look at it one more time for grading.
So will you send me an email
Mhm.
exactly what needs to be done?
And, this was postponed because of the evaluation from, was it Army Corps and the archaeological comment, right, which are resolved now, so the plan gets updated and the number of trees are identified and the location identified. But I think we're in pretty good shape here also, Mr. McPartland.
Sounds that way, yeah.
So do you want a tentative reso pending those items? They're not large.
That's what I was going to ask if we be able to have everything in the next couple of weeks, have this done. We
Yeah, if
can,
you just send me the email, I'll get a hold of Tess and have her send something to you.
Okay.
we can then get your approval at the end of this month versus sometime in November, at least,
Yeah, that's fine. We're pretty busy now, so we probably won't start this until spring.
Okay. All right, so if there's a problem and the information doesn't come in, we'll table it till our November meeting, but if you can get everything in, we can bring it to closure.
Okay,
Okay? Beautiful.
all right.
Thank you for hanging out with us tonight. I know it's a long meeting, so I appreciate it, your time,
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Noyes.
and everyone else also. Okay?
All right.
All right. Let's see.
Everyone else is.
Yeah, we still got a few items to go here. 3413 State Street, and that's a tenant change for a retail smoke shop. And we have, yes, the applicant and the applicant's
And
representative.
accountant, yes. Good evening. My name is Frank Norvicki. I'm the accountant. This is Shoki Al Harbi. He's going to be the proprietor of the new business. We're seeking a variance change. for 3413 State Street, Suite 1 at the Mansion Plaza in Niskayuna under, the LLC name is True Success Movement LLC. The DBA name may be it or maybe something else, but that's another issue. His plans are to set up a smoke shop in the former T-Mobile store on 3413 State Street, Suite 1. He plans to sell tobacco products, vapor products, and CBD products and supplements to the public. Also, he will sell snack foods, soda, juice, and chips. This will not be a grocery store, nor will accept food stamps. He will acquire all licenses for tobacco, vapor, and CBD from New York State as applicable. There will be no cannabis or marijuana sales in the store, and he will not sell any alcoholic beverages. Shoki Harvey does have experience in the field. He's an employee of Fly City Smoke Shop on 2213 Broadway in Schenectady, which is owned by his father, Fuad Al-Harbi. He owned the smoke shop since 2019. Shoki is going to invest about probably $5,000 to $7,000, and what he's going to do is to put in shelving on two sides of the wall and to put glass cases around one side and part of the other side where there'll be cash register on that side, and on the back will be storage for inventory. So why we're here tonight is to seek a variance to approve the retail store and to install the shelving and case displays.
All right. So basically, there's no variance, it's just a change of tenant.
Yeah, just to be clear, it's not a variance.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Wondering about
And it's an approved use, and as you stated, no marijuana, which Niskayuna has restricted, so it's compliant.
Yeah, it's just considered retail. The only thing that's special about it is that we don't allow the smoke shops to like grow into cannabis in our.
They will not.
And you understand that, so. All right.
Laura, when the planning office reviewed with respect to the requirements of section 220-4 shall not be located within certain distance of schools, does that apply to neighboring municipalities?
Sorry, I wasn't clear on it, but I looked in the neighboring municipalities anyway. The closest thing I could find was a daycare that was still 1,000 feet away.
Okay.
And there is the Woodlawn School is the closest school that I could find, and that was more than 1,000 feet away as well. It was unclear, but I figured I would look.
Yeah, just wanted to ask.
Yeah, it's a good question. I had the same thought.
Good question.
Yeah, I mean, it's unclear, but I think we'd fall on the side of.
I would think so too. I mean, to me, a school is a school. It doesn't matter which municipality it is in.
Right. But right now, this is clear within the.
I looked. There is a daycare that's a couple streets away, but it's still more than 1,000 feet.
I mean, the intent of the store will be clearly for adults, right? Not,
Oh, yes, absolutely, yes.
Right.
Would there be signage to that effect?
There will be, we have to plan on that. We'll be working on a signage.
And CBD is allowed, Laura, right?
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to check with Elena if there's a certain concentration of CBD that then triggers something further. But for like regular CBD, like we ran into that at ShopRite Plaza is okay.
Yeah,
Just regular.
I think it's got to be under a certain amount.
I talked to you about.
Yeah, you did talk to me on the
We
phone.
don't sell like anything more than
Yep.
the legal.
Yeah, you can stand up to the microphone, please. We just make sure we catch you on the record, okay? Thank
Yeah,
you.
I talked to Laura about it. We don't sell like more higher than what the CBD legalized, just to confirm that.
All right. Well, I mean, nobody has
Yeah,
any.
this is a tenant
It's
change,
a
right?
tenant change, and it seems like it's compliant. So I don't see any issues, and if the signage isn't decided, I mean, if the signage submitted at some point in the future is compliant with the town code, I don't think we need to look at it, right? It's compliant. If it isn't compliant, obviously it should come to the board. So I guess we're back to another tentative resolution,
Mhm.
approving your tenant change with, conditions that, signage meets the requirements.
So you need us to give you the plans?
No, if you're not ready, we can just condition it that well, you'll submit a building permit for the signage separately.
Right.
In the future, but I guess it'd be good if you could get it done, and then, if there's any issues, they can be identified, and if we have to take any action or make any recommendations, we can take care of it, and it'll help you out.
And it's worth your while to make the signs compliant.
Right, absolutely.
Some tobacco retailers have an area where the tobacco can be consumed. I'm thinking of a cigar shop on Albany Street, I know, or not, in Albany on Central Ave. Is
There will
there,
be no
there's no-
smoking. in
there's
it.
no consumption on
No,
site?
it's gonna be a retail, like.
all retail.
Just
come
retail?
and go, yeah.
Okay.
And plus, we're not doing like, nothing major work in the space. We basically getting like showcases for visions and basically glass shelves on the wall. So we're not doing with any electric or like water supplies or that. So it's basically ready to go. All we have to do is like order the showcases and glass shelves for the walls. That's it.
Yeah, that's great.
And you'll be selling cigars and pipes and tobacco and
Accessories, yeah, for
Accessories.
tobacco.
Okay. And your name, sir, just for the record?
Showkill Harvey.
Okay, thank you.
You are.
All right, so we'll have a tentative resolution. And again, if you do know your signage, if you can get it to us, we can make sure it's compliant and take a look at that. If not, we'll just condition the resolution as a follow-up, okay?
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. We'll give you a double thank you for being so patient. We appreciate it. All right, you're next. I assume you're next, maybe not. Oh, you have 412? Yeah,
well,
no, Hickory Farms, right? That's not you. Okay, so next is Hickory Farms. I'm sorry. And I think this one's, the Hickory Farms thing here, they had a sign before, apparently they didn't get approval, and they're looking to do the same thing, right?
So, right, they got approval from us to do the temporary building last
Right.
year, worked fine, but they did put up a temporary banner that we struggled with them for, and then they moved out before we had true.
well, I mean, they're only seasonal, right?
But they're only seasonal, yeah.
Yeah, the only question I had is the paperwork that they submitted shows a sign that would be compliant, 2x20, right? They show, on page, I guess the packet, it's page 179. It shows, the different artwork of 2x16, 2x20, and 3x20, right? So why wouldn't we just say, utilize that choice? Am I missing something? It's on page 179 of the packet. Yeah, you're right there.
Am I there?
So right under Hickory Farms, it says 2x16, 2x20, right? And it was, if I recall from the agenda statement, 40 square foot would be compliant.
I don't think it is, because I don't think,
Well, let's
something
put it this
funny
way, it'd be
about it.
less, the maximum is 50, right?
Yeah,
So-
but their linear frontage is not 50.
Okay, but they're looking to do the real big sign, the 3x20, right?
I think that's what they had up last year.
Right. So my thought was, well, why don't they just go with the 2x20, even though it may not be compliant? It's more in compliance because it's within the 50 square foot that they're allowed as a maximum. Right?
And we've got waiver authority for that, right?
Don't know.
No?
That's our, ask Laura.
Yeah, so Clark put the frontage in here. The frontage of the facade is 20 feet. So they can only have a 20 square foot sign.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but they were asking to do the 60 square foot, so why don't we compromise and say, okay, go ahead with the 2x20, which is under the 50, even though it's greater than.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
But it's under the 50, which is the maximum allowed that we have the authority for, right?
No, actually, you guys can go above, it's in the town center overlay district, the shopping center commercial district, and the one other one. You guys have waiver authority.
Yeah.
All right, do we also have to do a change of tenant on this one also? Or is it just?
Yes, so this one would be change of tenant and then what size you want the sign.
Okay.
They're only allowed a 20-foot sign, but you could waive it to 40 feet rather than the 60 feet.
I mean, that's what I was thinking. I don't know what everybody else thinks. We could, obviously, we're going to do a tenant change. They were there before.
Yeah, there was
But
no
if they
problem.
can utilize the 2x20 sign, it's still greater than the minimum required, but it's less than the maximum allowed, the 50 square feet. So it'd be a nice compromise, I thought. can we ask the applicant if they could do that?
Mhm.
If the board's okay with that, of course. You know, they might already have the other sign somewhere. Maybe that's why they were proposing the large sign, but let's see if we can ask them to use the 2x20,
Yeah, so Clark and I will give them the direction that we'd like to see the 2x20.
right? And then we could do a change of tenant resolution.
Reso at the
Approval of
next
that
meeting.
sign if they're willing to do that.
And if not, they could come back and inform and in-person request
Yeah.
the
and then-
bigger one for whatever reason.
Yeah, and
Yep.
if they really need the other one that we thought was large and exceeds the maximum allowed, well, why?
Mhm.
Question, okay? Sound
I
good?
would guess they're in a hurry because it's going to be season for
Yeah,
them.
well, you know, if you get a hold of them and they're willing to do it, we'll have a tentative resolution.
Yeah, we'll
next
put them
meeting.
on for the next meeting.
We'll be busy with tentative resolutions next meeting, that's for sure.
I mean, you guys can modify the resolution at the next meeting, even if they
Okay.
can convince you that they have to have the big one.
Any other comments at all on that subject?
Yeah, I mean, you have to think that second time there, people will know they're there, expecting to hear.
Yeah. Yeah, if they, you know, it's the best, especially since they state in their own submittal that they have that optional sign available. Let's ask them to use it.
Yep.
Okay.
All right.
All right. And the last thing on the agenda, thank you again
Okay.
now for your patience. 1748 Union Street, and this is the single-family home. It's in the mixed-use area. And this is a
Yes.
new application, right? We had a previous application. Was it you the applicant before for this property?
No,
I
different.
don't believe that
Nope.
that was me, no.
Nope.
Yeah.
So my name is Vladimir Goikman. I'm with Trinity Realty Group. I believe that you guys received our request from Paul Filati. I remember sending the email together with him. So what we're looking to do is so we're purchasing both these properties. One side is going to be a financial institution. The other side, we're asking your permission to take a residential building, a 2,500 square foot building, and put residential on the second floor. It's currently a 2-story building. On the first floor, we'd like to do retail. We'd like to see what your thoughts are on that. And also, that blue line splits the properties. They are both already paved. What we'd like to do is make it drivable. We'd like to have access from the one property to the other to be able to drive out.
As it's shown here, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So,
Drive in and out, just have flow for the patrons of both.
so the first thing I just want to clearly establish, you said it. So JAK Development is purchasing both of these properties,
Yes.
right? And number two, the expectation for the property with the drive-through is that it will be used as a financial institution in the future? Because
Yes.
there was an applicant before who
A
potentially
fast
wanted
food
to make it
restaurant.
to a fast food restaurant.
I believe that,
Yeah, take out.
Yeah.
yeah,
Failed, didn't go forward.
Okay,
that's correct.
all right. So is financial institution locked in or is it still
Working on
open?
it.
Okay,
So there's no change to that. That building would be repurposed as it was pretty much just with that, just rebranding or whatever, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's in the town or city of Schenectady anyway, right?
Yes.
Anyway,
yep. How many residential units are you thinking for the building under discussion today on the second floor?
One, I believe.
So it'll be just one apartment,
Yes.
2-bedroom, 3-bedroom?
I don't want to make up an
Okay.
answer for you.
Okay,
So I don't want
that's
to
fine,
answer that.
undecided. And any idea what the retail is going to be on the first floor?
We don't have that yet either. It's just an idea that we wanted to see and get your feel on. We're retail brokers. That's,
mean,
you know, what
The
we
key
do.
thing is that it's all allowed within the zone.
That's
Right,
all
so that's a
allowable
good
in the
thing.
zoning. I'm not even clear, like I haven't done and had enough time to truly research it, but I believe that it was at one time a mixed use building. Like it may have converted into
So I was
two-
told that as well when
Yeah.
I walked the building with the broker that was selling us the building at the time. I believe it was some sort of office space on the first floor and an apartment on the second floor. The building is in rough condition. We would, take very good care of it, and we would modernize it and make it stand out in a good way, as it needs to for retail and for residential.
So the current connectivity between the two properties on what used to be the drive-through or what still is the drive-through lane
Yes, so I actually printed something out for you guys. This is, I apologize, I didn't email this out to everybody, but this may actually help. So may I approach?
Yes, please.
Yeah,
No, please.
please.
Yeah, you can just hand it on the end. And yeah, we'll pass them down.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, yeah. Thank-
Share. Yep.
There's a connection. There's a dumpster. No, there's a.
At least gives you guys the visual so that you can see how the flow is. Everything's already paved. We just need to, there's like a water, let me see, how do I show this to you?
Whoops.
So
Have one?
there's a watershed
This is gonna.
that
Extra
is
grass.
right here. And that's actually already removed. And we just need to put a road from here to there.
Okay.
That's it.
Is there a curb there? It's hard to tell.
There is a curve there.
There- right?
There's
Yeah, that's what I thought.
about a foot and a half of rise there. About that big.
Oh, really?
You just have to you have to talk into the mic, please.
Yeah, please.
Oh.
Thank you.
So there is a curb there between the two properties. It is about a foot and a half.
Mhm.
So we would propose to have, a grade there of about, 6, 7 feet, just to make sure that it's level and easy to
Okay, so these
cross.
two properties are two different heights, two different topological heights.
Yes, sir.
So we have to. check
Well,
for drainage.
Yeah, I mean, tonight you're just looking to get our feedback because if we, give you positive feedback, you got to go ahead and do the engineering. I mean, you're creating more impervious surface here, it looks like, right? And connecting the two. So there's some grading, so there'd be questions about, is there any water concerns now? Will there be any in the future?
So I don't think it's more impervious surface, right? I think it's just.
So it's concrete and it's already asphalt, the whole way from both
Yeah,
properties.
well, I say more, but there's some extra green space it shows on the new proposal also, which is positive, right along
Right,
here.
yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, no, definitely. I mean, I see there's extra green space, but I mean, I think you're not doing any additional blacktopping
No, sir.
or, yeah.
Is there any water issues in the building now, the one proposed for mixed use?
No, sir. None that we've discovered.
But we'll need to see the topological drawings.
I can just say when it was proposed to be a fast food restaurant, I think the proposal was to take this building down.
Mhm.
And I remember Mr. Scrabatanis in particular was sad because this building has some character, even though it's probably not like wholly historical.
Yeah.
If somebody gave it some love and brought some life back to the streetscape to it, it would be, I think, a good thing. And it'd be, I mean, we don't like losing our brick building.
No, I mean, this is great
no.
compared to, the potential application that we had for us before that we were all concerned about with the traffic and the type of use and the
Yeah.
destruction of the building. I think this is all positive, so.
Yep, and if you can land a financial institution for that property, that'd be the best thing, right?
Yep, exactly.
Easiest one.
Yep.
Just out of curiosity, my map away.
Oh, sorry.
Would there be more green space between what's, I think, hair raisers and the single family or the mixed use in this unit?
Would there be more green space
Yeah,
there?
like would there be anything to delineate the property line that's different than the picture you gave us?
I can't speak to that. What I can say is we will try to maximize the parking. We will need to. So I don't want to make a promise or say something that, on the record, but if it has to be, then we can work on
That's what
that.
the sketch looks like when you compare the photo you just gave us compared to what the proposal, I know it's a concept. It appears that there's more green space as a result of this project.
A little bit, but I was thinking right across.
Especially right in the.
Yeah, no,
between
I
the-
mean, he's got green space planned around the
Yeah,
building.
exactly.
Yeah, he
And
does.
here too.
Right, yeah, that's new.
There's
this
none there. Here,
Yeah,
turn
there's
this the same way.
yeah, that's true. Yep, that's true.
So it's all positive.
Yeah.
I'm not sure, somehow on Laura's picture, there was that green space that the split rail fence is on.
Yeah, it's funny because I didn't even have to move Google because the Rosada just right on the other side of the road.
That's right, yeah, well, that's the other thing I was saying, right? That, you heard what we said to the guy across the street with the green,
But Similar comments. There's no shade here, so planting street trees along here would be really important.
And look how nice our curbs are.
I know, you
Yeah,
have
yeah.
a nice curb.
Well, we think we want to get all those curves to be flat with the road.
No, we don't.
So I've got a couple questions. If you go to the rendered plan, Laura?
Yeah.
Okay, so on, I guess it would be on the former bank site, the drive-through lane has a menu board kiosk. Is that just a carryover? Zoom in by the dumpster.
Yes, I saw that too on my way here.
And
I
then
was
it
like,
says,
it's too late to get rid of it
pickup
now.
window and a bypass lane. This isn't,
I don't imagine that our financial institution is going to require a menu board,
okay.
but I can't guarantee that. But I
Right.
don't imagine that that's an issue.
So one of the things we talked about with some of the former applicants is that along Palmer Ave, there's two, that parking lot getting in and out is problematic for a couple reasons. One, it's very close to the corner of Union Street. So when it was a bank, it got a lot of traffic in and out of that parking lot, and it's difficult to get in and out and take a left-hand turn onto Palmer.
Or then go to the ATM from that parking lot if you.
Correct.
If you
Yeah.
drive into that parking lot, only to discover that you can't access the ATM from it.
Yeah. So even though this falls in the city of Schenectady, if there was a way to look at combining or utilizing the curb cut where the new drive-in lane is that wants to bring you directly across into your lot, which is in Niskayuna, behind the building, and to reconfigure that parking lot, you would eliminate two curb cuts right next to each other, one for a parking lot, one for a drive-through.
Yeah.
Do you follow the logic on
So
that?
you want me to get, just clarifying, you want me to get rid of the green space in between those two curb cuts?
No.
And
Along Palmer Ave,
Yeah.
there's access to come in.
Yeah.
See where the arrow is? She's going
Yeah.
back. If that was to be green space
Mhm.
and your access into the parking lot was to come up in and reconfigure the parking there, that may be beneficial to a pre-existing condition of a lot of congested traffic that would try to get out into Palmer Ave.
I understand.
Yeah.
I'll make the suggestion.
Yeah, I think the bottom line is if we only had one entrance and exit onto
Right.
Palmer Ave,
Mhm.
wherever you want to put it, take into consideration you don't want to be too close to Union,
Right.
so it's better to be further away. But you could reconfigure that whole area and maybe even reconfigure the green space and what it looks like.
I support that, and in so doing, I think you can also more clearly establish a way for this new proposed mixed use to egress
Yep.
that way onto Palmer Ave.
Yeah, so they have choices.
Right.
You're saying keep the Union Street from the new mixed-use building exit, right? Mr. McPartland? You're saying?
Yes,
Yeah.
but right now we're showing
Yes.
that the
Here's my-
ATM entrance is only an entrance.
Gotcha.
Right.
No,
Just
I
one
just
arrow
wanted
here.
clarification. Yep.
Yeah. So you could widen it, make it an.
Yeah, so you could come out of the mixed-use building and where you're, if you change the parking lot around, you could also exit onto Palmer Avenue. So the signage along Palmer would be to go to the drive-through or to go into the parking area. That would be an access point, and it'd also be an access point for your new mixed-use building.
Sure.
You know?
I am with you 100%. My only thing that is going through my head right now is if I share a lane to use for the drive-through lane and for parking, I'm going to queue in my
Queue, yeah,
parking
yeah.
spots. And I don't know if you've been to like a Starbucks where you're waiting for.
Yeah,
someone
no.
behind
You're,
you
That's a
to
good point.
back out.
Yeah, you're not going to want to share. You're not going to want to have an entrance. to
Yeah,
the parking
that's
area
I think
come off
why
that
the site
lane.
is
No.
designed that way. And I'm a real estate agent. You guys know this way better
Yeah.
than I do. That's just what goes through my head.
You don't have,
Yeah, but I don't think
you don't have to go, you know, with the water tank thing that you mentioned that was removed?
Yes.
I don't think that's probably the best place to enter that parking space. Is that what we're concerned about? You're concerned about the queuing at the,
No. If he,
So if I got rid, I'm not speaking into the microphone anymore, but if I got rid of this,
yes,
right, and had an entrance.
No,
Parking somewhere
here, yeah, not there, but yeah.
This is my queue line for my drive-through. So now, in order in or out of my parking.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I'm in the queue line.
Yeah.
And people have to wait for others.
Mhm.
There would be a pretty long queue line for a bank.
Yeah, I,
It's just, it just gets really, really difficult. Again, I'm
Yeah,
not saying
yeah.
that, no, I will bring it up to my boss and the people that actually make the decisions, right? But that's just the feedback that I'm assuming I would get.
I think in our code though, just for like standards, I think that like for a bank, I think we ask for you to be able to queue like 2 or 3 cars. It's not like 6. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, I mean, Brett, there's something you can work here with the space to cut this down to one entrance and have it
Yeah,
be
I'll bring
an
it up to them.
accessible
I have a-
parking lot and an
Yeah, I mean-
accessible ATM. One question for completeness: why do you actually want to join the 2 properties with the roadway to get rid of that
Help it
1.5?
flow better. We just need it to flow better
Okay.
to make it, it's one site, it's owned by one person. We want to make it beautiful and big and
Okay.
accessible, and that's it.
Yeah, it'd be easier for plowing because
Yeah.
how it's all connected, so.
Yep.
Well, to that end, if you're going down that route, then it sounds like we don't even have to think within the boundaries of the existing green space. You can kind of reshape this however it makes the most sense, efficiency wise, in terms of providing enough parking for your financial institution, providing ingress and egress. I conceptually, I really like parking behind the mixed use off the roadway.
Mhm.
So in general, I think this is moving in a really great direction.
I mean,
Shared
so-
parking is always nice too. I don't know how you accomplish that here, but
I
shared
wanna
parking is
strongly
nice.
echo what Mr. McPartland's saying. I'd recommend to you, the owner, and Mr. Steenberg, that since you're quote unquote uniting the properties, just look to the whole property and reconfigure it as something that really flows. I mean, the road going into the ATM doesn't need to be angled, right?
Right.
It could be however you want to make it. And
Yeah.
and that shared parking concept that Mr. McPartland mentioned, it works both for it works for that financial institution, right? So maybe you don't need the 13 parking spots that are shown right there. Maybe that number becomes 12 or 11 or maybe 11, right?
No, those are all good comments. And the other thing is that based on the proposed use, commercial on the first floor, residential on the second floor, we have to do our parking analysis, Laura. So what are the requirements there? If we have an abundance of parking, I think it was one of the councils had a concern or thought about more green space along Union Street, especially regarding parking spot number 29, maybe 28 and 29 are able to go away and there's more green space added there along Union Street, a couple trees or something.
Yeah, their comments were to try and reduce curb cuts, which is exactly where you guys landed, and then that 29 would be almost impossible to park in if there were cars in 28 and 27. It's not really a usable parking spot.
Yeah.
And so it would be great to.
Right, so if you don't need parking spots 28 or 29 based on the parking requirements for the proposal, maybe that's an opportunity to expand the green space there, maybe plant a couple trees in there, to, make the property stand out and it'll actually help you out, I would think, too,
Yeah, especially if you have a residential unit above, there's really no sitting area outside for them currently.
Mhm.
And you have 29 parking spaces. I think that's without even looking at what the evaluation is, I can tell you it's high.
It's a lot.
Yeah, but again, we're trying to
Yeah.
use it as one site, right? So the 29 spaces.
No, agreed. But I think the bank at the 13 you're showing there is probably okay. And definitely the rest of it, if you extend what's 14, 15, 16 to also be shared with the bank, you've got a lot of space.
Yeah,
for
so,
parking.
we like parking, we'll make sure it's adequate, but if it's more than adequate, if we can substitute green
We like
space.
trees,
or
too.
Impervious surface, it's gonna reduce your cost too, right?
Yeah,
You get less
absolutely.
blacktop, so it'd be a win-win,
Yeah. I'll try and get them to put an
Yeah.
oak there. I know we like oaks.
We like all trees.
And Mr. Steenberg.
Old growth oak?
He's familiar, Mr. Steenberg is familiar with this board, so,
Yeah.
yeah, I'm sure he can.
No, Brett's good. He should be able to really do
He is.
something nice there.
Yeah.
But yeah, don't be constrained by the way the lots look today. That's the key thing.
Yep.
Okay.
And then as far as the proposal, it's allowed. So I think this board in general, it's allowed. So we're okay with it. We're just taking the opportunity to do any cleanup that we can on the site to benefit both of us and take it to the next round.
Don't be constrained by the parking lot and the green space.
And the parking.
I mean, the
number.
current boundaries, that's what we're saying, right?
And the number of parking spots on the mixed-use site. the Niskayuna
So do
site.
you guys think I can get an approval for the retail and the apartments today?
Well, it's not clear whether or not you need one.
Yeah,
You might,
you may not.
he might be zoned already for it, right, Laura?
My boss told me he couldn't do it in a day, and if I could, that I'd get like a hero's welcome tomorrow. Can I get an
Oh, boy.
approval or what?
No, you need a resolution. You wouldn't be able to get
Yeah,
that.
we need to have a resolution. But we need to take a look at, the parking. Planning department has not an opportunity probably to take a look at this, right?
We looked at it a little bit, and like I said, we brought it to Complete Streets, and there was some concern that some of the parking spots aren't usable. But the actual retail on the first floor, residential on the second floor is really not an issue. Like that's just a planning board. But I guess it would be helpful if you knew the tenant, that you just do the tenant change now, because conceptually a mixed use building there is allowable by zoning, but you could get approved for a mixed use building. If you don't have your tenant, then you still have to come back for a tenant change. If you have your tenant now and you're working through then just bring the tenant.
I wish I had my tenant. I'd be
Yeah.
really good at
So
my
you can
job.
tell your
I'm
boss.
not that good at
You
it
can tell
yet.
your boss he's the holdup.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
Yeah, because the other building, the financial institution, that's in the city of Schenectady, so, it's great that you're, right?
Mhm.
So, you're good there. Just a matter of, when you combine the uses, whether we can clean up the parking lot and the egress out onto Palmer Avenue
Yeah, I mean,
in spots number 28 and 29. If they're not needed.
Yeah.
yeah, so I think we like to see some parking lot cleanup. If we're just approving it conceptually, I would still say that we need some landscaping along the Union Street, because it's another place where there's no shade for people who are walking. Maybe like one more iteration of the drawing, at least before we were ready for resolution, would be my recommendation.
Yep, no, I agree.
One more iteration of the drawing.
Well, potentially. I would say that you need at least one more discussion meeting before they were ready to call for a resolution. That would be depending on how thorough the next submission was and how soon you got it to us.
One more.
And our next meeting is 3 weeks away, so we should be able to have plenty of time to at least talk to who you need to speak to regarding our comments, and to your engineer, Brett, regarding site circulation and parking.
Yeah.
And to one of the planning, he does, I think, need to put some grading lines, just because it looks like there's a small amount of topography there. So
We do need
understand.
to see a drawing with the grading lines.
Yeah.
Got to make sure there's no water issues.
And Google Earth, I know you said it's like up, but it's, the couple block retaining wall right now, or was. So that would just be helpful to understand.
Yeah, that's the 1.5 foot balls and stuff in there, right?
But in general, I mean, we're supportive, and we're glad, versus what we've seen in the past, that this is the direction it's taking, so we're happy.
Perfect. Guys, thank you so very much for your time. I really appreciate it.
And
All
thank you
right.
for, again, sticking out with us tonight when it was a long
You're
night.
clear on what you got to do next, right?
What's that?
You're clear on what you have to do next, right?
Yeah, I got like a page and a half of notes.
Okay,
on
good.
it.
I mean, yeah.
And you're welcome to, obviously call the planning office if you need some direction.
Perfect.
Any clarification, please do,
Perfect.
So you don't-
I will.
Right?
And if you get
Thank
this
you guys
stuff
so
in
much.
sooner, then you're ahead of the line. Right? We set the agenda.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Thank you guys again.
No, thank you.
And have a great Monday night. What's left of it?
Thanks.
You too.
All right.
That's good.
Thank you, everybody. All right, that's it for the discussion items for tonight. So I guess reports, Laura, you have anything, or Laura Clark for tonight?
I did have something.
Laura, did you want to talk about the sandwich board sign on Mount Street?
Yeah, I think that was what I was going to talk about. My brain is like completely blank.
Training, maybe?
No, we have a proliferation of sandwich signs that have been appearing in the town center overlay district. Some of them can be treated as temporary signs, because you're allowed to have a temporary sign for a business for essentially 2 months every year. And sandwich signs are an allowable temporary sign. Sometimes we see the flags, you know, those little teardrop flags that go up. There's a couple different types of temporary signs. So if the sandwich signs fall under a temporary sign and they only want them up for 2 months, then they can just work with the building department. There's one right now in front of the liquor store. Is it the liquor store, Clark?
Mustache.
Oh,
Mustachio.
mustachios. You're completely right. Yes,
Yep.
mustachios. We also noticed one in front of the massage parlor place, which I also noticed. Interestingly, they take it down at night, so it must
Body
only come up. Body Works,
Body
yes.
Works?
And then there's another one in front of the daycare, which
Wiggles and giggles.
Wiggles
yeah.
and Giggles. So they've started to occur. If they only want them up for 2 months, fine. If they want to have kind of another method of, you know, conveying information for more than 2 months of every year, then they'd have to come
Yeah, so
to
this can
you.
be a simple question, but do those owners know that they have a 2-month limit?
Well, Tom's been working with mustachios, but as he was working with mustachios, he kind of took a hard look and noticed at least 3 or 4 more. And so the question was, okay, now we got to go talk to them, but there's a potential that some of them may be okay with it being 2 months or may want to come discuss sandwich signs with you guys.
Okay, yeah, I mean, I have a hunch that maybe maybe not all, most of them just probably don't know that they have a 2-month time limit.
2-month limit.
But for the 2-month limit, they got to make application though, right?
Yeah, just a building
So they're not-
permit. Yeah.
You know, that's
They're
the key.
allowed.
They have to make an application, you know, they're just putting a sign out.
Yeah, we've
Hopefully
allowed sandwich signs to be a temporary building permit
Okay.
before. Our code is a little vague on the subject of whether or not temporary signs need to come to the planning board, but we've never brought temporary signs to the planning board before. So as long as they're just 2 months and they're meeting all the code, we'd probably allow them to have their sandwich signs for their 2-month allotment every year. But if they want more than 2 months, they'd have to come here to you guys. Another thing that's happening there is that's about what we talked about, right, Clark? You're the one who's got the good memory tonight.
Yeah.
Okay. And then the Niskayuna liquor sign, it may be refurbished and updated. I told them if they're changing the type of lighting or their square footage, they need to come back. But if they're just fixing it, then they can just fix it. But what we think about that is cool is, speaking of Metroplex, like county invested all that money and we wanted people to be like, okay, now all this money's been invested in the road. Take the time now to start investing in the businesses. And the Niskayuna Liquors is working with Metroplex to fix their sign.
Beautiful.
So it's a domino effect of goodness.
Well, not all domino effect on goodness, because we still got individual businesses claiming rights to parking.
Yeah, we're
use.
working separately on that. That may actually, it depends on how the town chips fall on that one. It's beyond the planning board's authority, potentially even mine. So
I mean, you mean there's a consideration by the town to actually allow something like that?
So it's something that the supervisor's department is working on regarding like what the ownership of those spots is. But right now they have to figure out how that's working.
Will they seek a recommendation from us?
I do not believe so.
Well, that's kind of a problem.
So it's
Because
not like they're going to be
substantial
allocated.
parking-
Huh?
They don't own the parking in front.
So the complicating issue is like who's responsible for it? Is there a maintenance agreement? Like what's happening? Like if the town is telling everybody that they're responsible for their parking, they may not want to delineate how they're signing it. If the town is like going to take over the parking, then it's very clearly, it's just, we have to let the town decide exactly what they're doing there before we work on the signs. I heard you and I started working on them, but there's some bigger things that have to be worked out before we move forward on them.
you. But I will tell you that I'm not the only one who's getting discouraged from even going there.
Yeah,
So it may all just backfire on them.
it could. It's true.
Laura, in that area of town, I noticed there was a CAC comment with respect to the Broken Inn to look into Crescent Road being one way. Did
Yeah,
I read that correct?
Yeah, they did.
How'd
They-
that come about?
Well, so not so what they were saying is it doesn't necessarily have to be a one-way road, but they were saying from Clifton Park, like no entry in or something like that to help with the truck deliveries and stuff like that. Like you could really sort of drive in both directions on the street, but they were trying to limit access from that intersection that was problematic.
So where does jurisdiction lie?
That would be entirely town because the intersection of Crescent and Clifton Park is all town right away. It becomes complicated when you're on Knott Street.
Okay.
Because Knott Street's the county right away, but the town would have the ability to do that.
Just not
They're
the
trying,
resource.
yeah, there's so many, like people just know it's problematic and there's so many ways that they want to try and make it better.
Anything else, Laura or Clark?
No, but for the record, they also had an idea for misters to cool. I forgot to tell that to Tommy, but because there's no trees and it's all asphalt and it's gonna get super hot and it's starting just, I think with climate change and things. If you go to California and you're eating outside, they have these restaurants that mist you while you're eating. I don't know if anybody ever eaten there. It really works. It's super great. And it was one of the ways that trying to think of mitigating heat in this plaza, and they thought of misters. They thought it was cool.
Right.
Yeah, but
There's problems with that too.
fortunately, California is next to a big body of water that we're not next to.
Yep. I think California has way more problems with water than we do. Whoa.
Okay, anything else, Laura?
That's a waste
Hey,
of
Kevin, this is
resources.
Joel.
Hey,
I
Joe.
was putting my grandson to sleep. Sorry, I missed my turn.
I'm trying.
I think it worked out okay for you, Joe.
Yeah, that's okay. We just Clark and I will get update you on your next steps, but generally speaking, we have a good path forward.
Okay,
Yeah,
thanks a lot.
we'll get there.
We guessed you were gone for your little one. That was our guess.
This is tough work.
It's okay. We've all been there.
Yeah. All right, yeah. Laura, so you contact Joel, is that,
Yeah, we'll just let him. I mean, really, yeah.
okay. All right, for commission business, I just leave it at this. Anybody have anything special they'd like to ask or say? Anybody have anything? No? Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn then?
So moved.
Motion adjourned by Mr. Laflamme. Have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much, everybody, for your time.
Thank you, Chairman Walsh.